Chapter 934. Lure. Chapter 934. Lure. Proofreader, Papatonks. Brother Dan, we can't stop this strange black flame, even as it eats it away. It won't do us any good if we just stay here in this tight place. Looking for the ever-expanding Black Sea, Shangwan Feiyun turned a nervous glance to Danqing. Shen the man shouted, "All right." He pointed two fingers at the sky, and a soaring sword of energy shot out in a loud boom, letting the sun cast light in this dark place, while also shedding some light on the demonic black thunder flame whoosh. Looking at the clear sky with a stray cloud here and there, Danqing Shun hoised Bailey Jingwei on his shoulder and flew away from the black flame. As the flames latched on his Yuan Qi shield and crept all over it, Danqing Shun shook once and sent his shield away from himself, letting the flames chip away at it from a safe distance, disappearing once their meal was finished. Whoosh. Shangwan Feiyun and a few strong Genesis stage guard arrived, shedding the terrifying flames in the same manner Danqing Shun did. They were at last out of danger and could breathe easier. These mighty and respected Genesis stage experts had just escaped a brush with death, something that hardly happened to them the more they watched the thunder flames swallow the manor. The deeper their fear ran. What the hell is this? Why is it so horrible? Of the 50 or so guards in the tunnel, only 5 escaped. It was testament to the warranted fear they had for the black thunder flame and of its destruction. The flames kept spreading, eating and destroying all of the manor, and they were powerless to stop it. Shangwan Feiyun stood there stunned, his face grave from the dangerous experience. It was a first for him to see his men die out without even making a sound. It echoed in him the same amount of powerlessness he saw in them. There was a limit to what a man could do, a saying he would not soon forget. "Prime Minister, Brother Dan, what is this thing? Do any of you know?" Shangwan Feiyun flew over to them and spoke with no little shock in his voice. "It's just a flame, but Yuan Qi can't stop it nor break it. Only by letting it consume everything will it make it stop. The only reason we're still here talking is because we had the Yuan Qi to keep it at bay. Any stronger, and even this Sword King would have fallen. This is absurd." Bailey Jingwei and Danqing Shun nodded gravely. Danqing Shun kept the knowledge about it and Zhou Fan to himself, while Bailey Jingwei grimaced. "It's not a question of what, but how strong. With this black flame, nothing in the world can stop it. We've only survived it because its power has a limit. Yet even so, it still managed to threaten the likes of a Sword King. Sword Kings, think for a second. We've been hard-pressed to use Yuan Qi and keep the flames away, but if just one mote touched us, we'd be dead." Shangwan Feiyun shook, and Danqing Shun's voice cracked in shock. "The black flame needs but a touch, and nothing will remain of us." Bailey Jingwei sighed. "Such a deadly power is hard for even a Sword King to escape. Then what about Patriarch? This is our first time seeing such a thing. But what if there'll be more of it? Then..." Bailey Jingwei trailed off, but Shangwan Feiyun understood his worry loud and clear. There just has to be more of this thing, and it could drive fear even into invincible sword. The question is, where did this outrageous thing come from? Shangwan Feiyun frowned, while Bailey Jingwei was lost in worries. In any case, Shangwan Yulin's detonation has something to do with the Shangwan clan. Bailey Jingwei spoke coldly. Shangwan Feiyun cursed. "Those bastards must be behind it. I don't know where they got this dangerous thing, but they stuffed it in the brat and got him to explode. It was clearly aimed at us. I was right to be wary of the detonation, even if its blast was meager. Any carelessness from my part, and the flame would have eaten me alive. Damn you, Shangwan Feixiong, and your cruelty." Shangwan Feixiong. Shangwan Feiyun had instantly dumped all the blame behind this devious and savage attack on his brother. But Bailey Jingwei frowned. Would such a kind and upright clan head resort to something so vile? Let's not forget that the mind behind everything is still Gu-Boom. A sudden, distant explosion cut off his words. The trio jerked and looked over in its direction. From a manor's east side, a surge of power came, followed by a most familiar sword energy. Shangwan clan's soaring sword art. Shangwan Feiyun gnashed his teeth. "Prime Minister Bailey, see that? They just took an attempt on our lives. They had Shangwan Yulin blow up in our faces while the main force was charging in. They want to take my head in case I escaped alive. Humph! There's no way they'll get rid of me that easily. Shangwan Feiyun shot towards the scene. The rest looked at the spreading sea of black and went after him. It was better to fight with the Sword King than stay here. Powerless Sword King Feiyun wait. Bailey Jingwei cried, but Shangwan Feiyun's anger deafened him to anything but his target. Bailey Jingwei squinted and looked back at the flames. He sighed and gave Danqing Shen a look. Flying together after Shangwan Feiyun, all the excitement and suddenness had made them blind to the on and off red infant. Going deeper into the flames and using them for cover, it went through the tunnel filled with flames and arrived to where the weakened Gu Santong rested, young Sanzi. Gu Santong shook at the familiar voice and smiled. "Dad, you're here." "Of course I am. I've come to get you out." The blood infant turned into a pitch-black sword floating under Gu Santong. It then took the child and disappeared without a trace. Shangwan Feixiong had come with his 3 venerables and the Genesis stage experts to cause a scene in an area of the manor. They burned and killed without stopping, as no guard could match the power of the 3 venerables. Not when they could hold back a Sword King. What was more, there were few guard around, far weaker than the carefully picked Shangwan experts' boom. A string of sword energies were unleashed, wreaking havoc to anything that moved as lavish buildings fell around him. Shangwan Feiyun hovered in the air and heard hundreds of people coming over. "Damn it, the guards are mobilizing here." Did the brat do it? I don't know if Shangwan Feiyun and the rest are with him. It will make getting out with just 10 men hard. It may even require to leave some behind. Shangwan Feixiong, you rotten relic, you sent me a suicide bomber and almost cost me my life. I'll make sure you'll never walking out of here alive. Shangwan Feiyun roared as he stormed over. Shangwan Feixiong saw Shangwan Feiyun coming at him like a storm, with Danqing Shen and Bailey Jingwei not far behind. He ordered, "Everyone fall back." They took the bait. The rest of the Shangwan clansmen, enjoying senseless violence, shot off at once, leaving this place a broken pile of junk and destruction. Chapter 9:35 Joint Tactics. Chapter 9:35 Joint Tactics. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shangwan Feiyun just arrived, and Shangwan Feixiong was gone with his team. It only worked to drive his fury ever higher, cursing at their fading figures. "Damn lily-livered fossil. See me here got you shaking in your boots? You're nothing. Since you can't beat me, you resort to living bombs? Even an old coot like you has fallen so low. But if you're to send a human bomb, you could at least go all the way and send a Genesis stage expert. What was the point of a fresh soul harmony punk? And you call yourselves heroes? If you're dirtying your hands, go all the way, not act like the cowards and useless bag of bones you are. What a Shangwan clan head you turn out to be." Shangwan Feiyun's mouth was an endless well of curses born out of the hatred and rage from the earlier blast he had been under. He did not only aim for Shangwan Feixiong's shamelessness, but also Shangwan Yulin's weakness. Unable to harm him at all, the soul of Shangwan Yulin would have fallen into depression if he heard it from whatever hell he was in. Why me? I'm just the messenger. How did I even die? He just went out with a bang without even knowing. The thunder flame then consumed his soul, robbing him of any chance of survival. One could say he was a poor, unfortunate soul. PN. Any Little Mermaid fans out there? Never knowing what got him even after death. But the moment he decided to be Zhuo Fan's messenger was the second his fate as martyr was set in stone. Taking one for the noble cause of this demonic emperor's grand rescue plan, Zhuo Fan had no intention to send any messages, only to send him to his death. That stuff with deals and exchanges was only an excuse. Sword King Feiyun, save your breath. They never were after you. You're cursing the wrong tree. Whoosh. Danqing Shen and Bailey Jingwei arrived, and the latter shook his head, seeing the Sword King consumed by rage. A man of status he is, but only a martial practitioner at heart, unable to escape his crude disposition. Shangwan Feiyun shook and asked, "What's that, Prime Minister? They didn't want me dead? What about that detonation and then that sudden attack? I have lost the soaring sword, so their only reason to come here is to go after my life. Not to mention the punk blew up right next to me. If that isn't already obvious, what is? How is that not an attempt on my life?" Ha ha ha. Sword King Feiyun, everyone knows how amazing you are. Bailey Jingwei shook his head. If they were after your head, they'd come up with a far more intricate plan and not some hasty idea. Just look at yourself. There's not a hair out of place. That's being cautious, blocking the black flame in time. The flame is deadly, but your instincts are much honed as a Sword King than any other Genesis stage expert. Not even a Soul Harmony Kid's detonation can escape your senses. It's easy to tell from the sudden surge that a detonation was coming as well. The only way the ambush would have worked was if they used one in the same stage. Bailey Jingwei gave a wry smile. Sword King, you need to think about it. What kind of ambush points to using a tactic that guarantees not to take the target down? Shangguan Feiyun shook and exclaimed, Prime Minister, you mean? They just wanted us to think it was a temporary attempt on your life. Bailey Jingwei had a creepy smile on his face. Shangguan Feiyun's heart jumped in shock. Temporary. Yes. Bailey Jingwei laughed. For Sword King to understand it better, I invite you to go back to the secret room together. Bailey Jingwei flew with Dan Shun as his loyal guard. Shangguan Feiyun was quick to follow back at the tunnel of the sea of black flames. Only a few motes remained here, and their Shangguan Feiyun waved his sleeve and sent the still burning rocks in the tunnel away. This cleared the way for the trio. The tunnel was just as narrow, just that its length was now cut in half, making it easy for them to reach the room. Dan Shun and Shangguan Feiyun gasped to see the bed empty. Sensing the cold sheets, they knew the child was long gone. Shangguan Feiyun cried out, Where is he? When did he leave? Rescued while the attacking Shangguan clan drew our attention. Bailey Jingwei analyzed. Shangguan Feiyun shuddered and gasped. Prime Minister, you knew. From the very start. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shone and smirked. Our opponent wasn't the Shangguan clan, but Gu Yifan. Shangguan Feiyun cried out, Him? How'd he do it? Didn't we agree on an exchange? Why? We did agree. But do you trust ourselves to let the father and son go free after we got the soaring sword? Bailey Jingwei shook his head. If I don't trust the deal, then you can be sure Gu Yifan won't either. The soaring sword is his leverage. Once removed, nothing can stop us from killing him. How far do you think a Radiant stage father can run with his injured son? It makes sense he'd need Shangguan clan's cover. But would they help him without the soaring sword? From the start, he never planned on following through on the deal, only after taking our bargaining chip. Bailey Jingwei looked around the empty room and chuckled. I have yet to figure out how he slipped in and succeeded in taking his son through the chaos. But the minute Shangguan Yulin demanded to see the child, I knew he planned a rescue. The rest were a series of plans. Shangguan Yulin's detonation, then the Black Flame's invasion of the tunnel, all a show of strength to unbalance our state of mind. Anxiety causes men to be irrational and fall for his trap. That's why I said, Sword King Feiyun, that the attempt on you was temporary. If you had calmed down and discovered the child was missing, you'd see the target wasn't you to begin with. Shangguan Feiyun's brow shook, looking tense at Bailey Jingwei and nodding. Everything makes sense now. Next came Shangguan Feixiong, leaving as quickly as they attacked, to lure us away. This was all to enrage and strike at your name. So Sword King Feiyun would believe this was an attempt on yourself, so you'd strike in anger and away from here. Then there's the black flame covering the tunnel. With the guards fearful of it, the only sensible thing for them was to follow you. Bailey Jingwei smiled as he unraveled the mystery. This gave him the opening to slip in when no one was around and save the child. He had Shangguan Yulin deliver a message, so he'd ingrain in our minds that we'd make the exchange in 2 weeks, and anything that happened within this time was out of his hands. This led to us immediately believing it to be the Shangguan clan behind Shangguan Yulin's detonation, while excluding him as being part of the equation. Ha! Gu Yifan makes us feel a swirl of emotions all at the same time. Truly amazing how his schemes are so meticulous. I've traveled to 5 lands for years, but not once met with such a thorny opponent. Just thinking about holding his head fills me with a sense of achievement. Bailey Jingwei cackled. Shangguan Feiyun nodded, feeling his back soaked. He's fast, precise, and deadly, stooping to any low. A more twisted mind on this earth is hard to come by. Then there's the fact he had the Shangwan clan's 10 experts work with him to get his son, with no casualties. At least he's not part of the Shangwan clan, or it would have turned dire. This is the core of every manipulator, not personal strength, but turning every pawn around him into a deadly weapon. The worst danger central areas Swordstar Empire can have right now is if by some chance the four lands place value on Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed with murder as he spoke with resolve. We have to get rid of him now once and for all. Shangwan Feiyun stared at his hateful face and nodded. He is a very real danger. But has Prime Minister ever thought of winning him? Not even once. Bailey Jingwei shook his head. I have said once that I don't like anyone like me. I alone am enough to govern the central area. I certainly don't need a second one. And certainly not Gu Yifan. Danxing Shun played the silent observer. He had never seen Bailey Jingwei so agitated. He feels his authority being questioned, his position. Chapter 936, Outdoing. Chapter 936, Outdoing. Proofreader, Papatonks. With the entire string of events clinically presented to him, it dawned on Shangwan Feiyun what it all represented. Though, like in anything, doubts still remained. Prime Minister, you knew this was going to happen, so why didn't you stop us from falling into his trap? Sword King Feiyun, you're underestimating Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Ever since my previous interaction with him, it should be obvious just how meticulous he is. If we were to set up a counter for him, he'd see it at a glance, making the endeavor pointless. I want not just the sword, but his life as well. Now that such a cunning devil finally walked into our domain, I would shame his kind intentions and heaven's gift letting this chance slip. Now won't I? Humph. Shangwan Feiyun nodded after a pause. Prime Minister is right. You can't bring a small hook to catch such a big fish. He's unlike that simple-minded Shangwan Feixiong. But does this mean Prime Minister knows where he's going after saving the brat? Brother Feiyun, don't you find the question redundant? Just look at Prime Minister brimming with confidence. Danxing Shin smiled and turned to Bailey Jingwei. I dare venture a guess that Prime Minister Bailey already has everything under his control. Bailey Jingwei couldn't stop himself from laughing. Dragon Cleaving Sword King is truly a close friend. Yes, I have everything ready. Then where is he? Shangwan Feiyun asked eagerly. Bailey Jingwei waved his hand, his eyes shining as he spoke. Humph. The punk's key to his joint tactics was speed. From the moment Shangwan Yulin detonated to Shangwan Yulin strike, they all happened at perfect timing and speed. It was enough for just one aspect to be offbeat by one step, and it would have ended in disaster. Speed also dictates the rushed actions he took, resorting to haste and leaving many oversights unattended. This joint tactics demanded that of him, to not be as cautious. Now all he's doing is being on the run as far away as possible, with little attention to anything else. Therein lies our success in beating him and outdoing him with even more speed. Bailey Jingwei had a prideful smirk on his face as he took out a vial. Opening it, he shook it and something green landed in his palm, finger-sized and wiggling first-level spiritual beast, lovesick larva. Shangwan Feiyun gasped and eagerly awaited Bailey Jingwei's answer. The Prime Minister nodded with a smile. Lovesick larva, yes. The red bean trees in the south grow, / by spring they yield in heaps above. / I hope you pluck in plenty soon, / because it is the gift of love. It yearns for those beans, and its lack of spiritual energy only classify it as a simple insect. But there's one thing it excels at that dwarfs other spiritual beast. It's what earns its place among them. Lovesickness by Wang Wei, Tang Dynasty. The pair of larvae, even leagues apart, all they'd yearn for is to be together again, to show his lovesickness. Danxing Shun sighed between the heaven and earth nodded. That's exactly right, Dragon Cleaving Sword King. The lovesick larvae come in pairs, intertwined always until the very moment of death, and ever loyal in love. Even if worlds apart, the two insects will eventually find each other again. That's why happy couples and sweethearts give each other one to proclaim their undying love. Humph! The larvae are inseparable, but their owner, always saying goodbye in love and hate. So how many are there that their love lasts until the end? Aren't men worse than bugs? Ha ha ha. Shangguan Feiyun mocked. Bailey Jingwei nodded. People are far more complex than this simple pair of insects. Most often than not, these larvae aren't used to proclaim undying love or chase skirts, but in a much more practical way. Separate the two, with the male placed on oneself, while the female crushed to be refined into the 1,000 league scent. Though named scent, it is odorless and colorless. Not even Genesis stage expert can find it. Only this male larva always crawls towards her direction undeterred. That's what makes it the best tracking method. Does that mean Prime Minister smeared the 1,000 league scent on the brat? When? Shangguan Feiyun lit up at the promising idea. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Of course, right when I was checking his pulse. Gu Yifan must have no idea I've long since planted the perfect bait for him, though it won't change even if he does realize. His plan is based on speed and has no time to check for details. That is unless he threw the brat away, but then it would mean all his work would go to waste. So he'll bet that I did not take precautions. But you can see that he clearly lost, ha ha ha. Bailey Jingwei laughed, and Shangguan Feiyun joined him. Dan Xing just watched them with a shake of his head, his saddened eyes landing on the lovesick larva the world had such devoted and love-struck beings, only to end up being a tool for humans and their twisted plans. The heavens are so cruel, following with pain after every success. Will the upright and righteous path of the world ever prevail in winning over the demons plaguing our hearts? Sword King Feiyun, we now have his direction. We'll give chase and grab the divine sword from his stiff, cold hands. In minutes, the lovesick larva found the scent of his better half, struggling to reach her. Nothing could dissuade it from reaching her. Not the impossible journey, nor the slow crawl. Its efforts brought a smile to Bailey Jingwei's face, his eyes shining with cruelty as he signaled for Sword King Feiyun to go on a hunt. Dan Xing took a deep breath, following them close. As the demonic sword took Gu Santong out of the manor, Zhuo Fan fled as well. He held Gu Santong close and ran like the wind, with the demonic sword slipping back his body per Bailey Jingwei's speculation. Zhuo Fan was focused on speed and wanted to put as much distance as he could between them before taking young Sanzi somewhere safe to heal, holding a Gu Santong that never once got a scratch, now hanging by a thread, plagued Zhuo Fan's mind. Whoosh. Zhuo Fan rushed through the air, not stopping for anything. This hour of flight had taken him 1,000 miles off Flying Cloud City with Shangguan Yulin's detonation and Shangguan Feixiong's sudden attack. The chaos at the manor drew all the experts in Flying Cloud City over. This gave Zhuo Fan a clear path to get out with ease. Zhuo Fan's lure was not only for Shangguan Feiyun and Bailey Jingwei, but for all the guards in the city and manor. It thus made his extraction easier. Just like he expected, and as Bailey Jingwei foresaw, Zhuo Fan's eyes flash, feeling in control. With the wind whipping around his face, Gu Santong awoke now and then to find himself in a warm and strong embrace, and in safety looking at the familiar face. Gu Santong winced and felt forlorn for some reason, having never had to rely on his godfather, until now, and tears flowed without stop. Dad, you came back for me. Of course I did. Who else would come save my son if not I? Zhuo Fan looked stern but smiled in comfort at seeing his missing godson these past days. Gu Santong's lips quivered as he apologized. Dad, I'm sorry. Why would you be? You did nothing wrong. I've been so stubborn, and Father's perfect plan. It's all on me. I rushed in and got Dad worried and endangered you to come save me. Gu Santong sobbed, unable to finish his thoughts. As his cheeks were streaked with tears, his heart was wrecked by regret. Zhuo Fan looked at him in silence, flying farther and farther away. Chapter 9:37 All-Encompassing Love. Chapter 9:37 All-Encompassing Love. Proofreader, Papatonks. Gu Santong cried for a long time, even as his first tears dried, with Zhuo Fan smiling. Young Sanzi, since you admit you're at fault, given the chance to do it again, would you still save the wench? Gu Santong shook and tensed as he got lost in thought. When he replied, he gave a weak nod. Yes, father. Oh, then why would you repeat the same mistake? Zhua Fan flew as he looked at him with a flat look. Gu Santong sighed. Because I want Annie to be safe. Then why do you say it's your fault? I'm in for making you worried and risking yourself for me. But I couldn't watch Annie, who is always nice to me, be hurt. That's why. I'd save Annie again if I could, but I don't want father to be in danger because of me either. Gu Santong's fidgeting betrayed his nervousness. Zhua Fan spoke calmly. Young Sanzi, then you shouldn't say sorry. Father. Gu Santong shook, looking stunned. Zhua Fan's cold tone sounded angry to him. Then Zhua Fan sighed and smiled. We've all been young and rash once. We've all made mistakes. Right and wrong are relative, not set in stone. As long as you think it's right, give it your all. Even if it's wrong, as long as it's worth it for you. Do it if you're ready to face the consequences of your choice. A real man doesn't utter apologies lightly, or they would hold no value. A man needs to be liable, regardless of wrong or right. Since you saved the wench, you need to be responsible for what follows, including having me spare the effort to save you, even my life. No, Dad, I never wanted you. Zhua Fan's words sounded like his will, and Gu Santong was only getting frightened as he cried. Zhua Fan chuckled. Think thrice before acting, young Sanzi. You're not the same as before. Your every move has ramifications. Since you couldn't let the wench get hurt, does that mean I could leave you be? I'm your dad. Gu Santong's lip trembled, overwhelmed by his love. This was a father, one who would accept him as he was in his entirety. Gu Santong experienced for the first time Zhua Fan's endless love he had for his son. Feeling this father reliable, it had always been the case of Zhua Fan being the weaker one and needed his help, accepting every time because of the fondness of having a dad. Only now, when he was in trouble, he felt his father's arms protecting him. Zhua Fan had become his everything, not just a mere godfather, but a true father, one such as he could always lean on. Also, is there anything a father and son can't talk about? If you wanted to save the girl, you could have just told me, and I would have. Zhua Fan continued. Although my attention has been lapsing that day from always focusing on sealing the falls and never noticing your changes. It's my fault, and I should be the one to apologize. Zhua Fan sighed with guilt. Gu Santong's regret only grew at his words. No, it's all on me. I always thought Dad's attention was only on the whirlwind tunnel, ignoring everything else. All plans were coming to a head all at once, and did not want to say anything, fearing you might yell at me. Zhua Fan shook and regarded Gu Santong's gloomy face. My own son thinks I'm so cold and unreasonable? That might have been before. Young Sanzi, listen closely, all-encompassing love. We are family. What you like, I'll make all efforts to like as well. Trust me from now on. Zhua Fan was resolute as he stared at Gu Santong, looking deep in his father's eyes. Gu Santong bobbed his head, finally showing his usually bright smile. Zhua Fan smiled back in relief. As the father and son grew closer as family, a cackle from behind startled them. Ha! Got you now, Gu Yifan. Try and escape this time. Zhua Fan's eyes hardened and looked back with a sinking feeling. Those rotten bastards caught up too fast. Whoosh! 3 pretty trails were left in the sky as Shangwan Feiyun, Bailey Jingwei, and Dan Xingshan appeared. Though Dan Xingshan carried Bailey Jingwei, since his speed was limited, the wisest man in the empire and 2 sword kings were hot on Zhua Fan's tail. Their power slammed into him and made him gasp, his frown deepening. How did they get here so soon? It's like they knew our heading. Gu Santong cried out. Zhua Fan stomped harder with Gu Santong in his arms. It's obvious they've done something to you, so these dogs could sniff you out. I drew them. Gu Santong's eyes shook, feeling ashamed. Dad, forgive me. Young Sanzi, what did I say? A man shouldn't always apologize. Then Zhua Fan smirked. Besides, it's all within my calculations. Truly, trust your dad. Whoosh. Zhua Fan sped up, his eyes flashing with cold determination. It was not like sword kings were hot on his tail, but mere wild dogs. The odds were hardly anyone in the whole central area actually got away from any of these 3 big shots. But Zhua Fan was confident in his skills, going fast while holding his happy son Shangwan Feiyun cussed. He just won't give up. Does he really think he can escape from the likes of us? Then again, It's not like we'll show mercy even if he stops, huh? Gu Yifan must be removed. Bailey Jingwei gave a vile snicker, looking at the larva in his hand crawling for Zhuo Fan, and mocked. His son has 1,000 leagues send on him, and not even a teleportation array can throw us off. The more frantic he is in his run, the worse his already dying son will be. Let's see how he'll deal with that, ha! Prime Minister Bailey, you might find torturing him fun, but I'm done waiting. Shangguan Feiyun swiped his fingers at Zhuo Fan. Gu Yifan, hand over the soaring sword, and I'll spare you. Or else. Whoosh! A sword wave in the form of soaring sword shot for Zhuo Fan, its sharp edge making his spine tingle, like death was crawling up his back. He reacted by leaning out of the attack's direction. Whoosh! The sharp edge glanced by his cheek, leaving behind a trail of blood. It exploded in a distant mountain range, leveling everything for 100 miles. The shockwave came seconds later and staggered Zhuo Fan's pace as he faced it head-on in his run. What he saw before him was a thick cloud of dust, dyeing the sky yellow as it covered even the sun. To Zhuo Fan, it felt like the wall of dust was there to block him from moving forward. Zhuo Fan had no choice but to stop, his face grave. A Sword King's power sure is something. One strike was all that was needed to block him. His only choice now was to go all out. Squinting, Zhuo Fan twisted around and let the black thunder flame flash in his left, while his right eye shone in golden halos, ready to stake it all. Chapter 938. Fighting a Sword King. Chapter 938. Fighting a Sword King. Proofreader, Papatonks. Shangguan Feiyun stopped 1,000 meters away with a sardonic smile. Why, Grandmaster Gu, tired of running perhaps? When a fight's unavoidable, no amount of running will change things. Zhuo Fan smirked back, his one last hurrah before dying. Quite heroic, one might say. Shangguan Feiyun grinned. Fight? Grandmaster Gu, you're right there? Why would you fight me? Do you even have the strength? Ha ha ha. Regardless if I have or not, I won't just let you take me without a struggle. Zhuo Fan huffed and held Gu Yifan tighter. Besides, my name might even travel to every corner, talking about my honorable death fighting a Sword King. What's the difference from all others you killed, you ask? I, Gu Yifan, have become 11th grade alchemist at such a young age, a heaven's favorite one might say. I shall never go down without a few ripples. Ha ha ha. Shangguan Feiyun eyed him as his cocky words stabbed his ears. He turned to Bailey Jingwei and mocked. I say, Gu Yifan just doesn't know when to quit. Even in death, he wants to be on top, remembered through the ages. Youngsters are filled with ambition. There's nothing odd about that. Between dying nameless like mowed grass and going down with dignity with their names spread throughout the world, anyone would always choose the latter. Bailey Jingwei smiled. Grandmaster Gu, you very much know I have a soft spot for talents. You more than qualified to be one. So, give us the soaring sword, and why not think about giving your service to the Emperor? Bailey Jingwei sounded sincere, but all Zhuo Fan did was mock him for it. Prime Minister Bailey does like talents, but in my short year in the Central area, I've not once heard of any notable, brilliant people in Prime Minister's service. Could it be that the wide and expansive Central area has none? Or is it likelier that Prime Minister's wisdom outshines everyone else's? That doesn't sound right either. With Sir's virtuous nature, how can you do that? It's better to say that Sir had been at odds with them when... Shangguan Feiyun hit a snicker while peeking over at Bailey Jingwei. Gu Yifan sure is a genius. He's like a god or something to figure it all out. Bailey Jingwei loved his talents, but to a point. He could employ all of them under his wing. But there was just one type that he abhorred the most, those like him, good in politics. He'd strike hard and fast. Out of fear of being replaced, this empire was just not big enough for two prime ministers. Bailey Jingwei would have happily welcomed Gu Yifan into his fold, so long as he was but an outstanding alchemist, and only that. But late events showed time and time again what a twisted and calculated mind he had. Not unlike Bailey Jingwei, by bringing him to the empire, the prime minister's post might just slip from under him. Gu Yifan had to die here, and now beyond any shadow of a doubt. Stealing the soaring sword had nothing to do with it, but just because Bailey Jingwei found him an eyesore, Grandmaster Gu has some good eyes, ha ha. Bailey Jingwei's face twitched. Since Grandmaster Gu insists on this action, I won't dissuade you any longer. While I understand you don't care about yourself, but what about the other life involved? Grandmaster Gu just has to give us the soaring sword, and I promise your son's safety. Zhuo Fan turned to Gu Santong, seeing the determination in his eyes, and chuckled. Prime Minister, there's no need to toy with me. My son is just like me, and I'm sure you've already seen this. Rooting out the weeds isn't uncommon. None of you would be so willing to let your enemy's son live. Now would you? Ha ha. Prime Minister should save his breath. The both of us will live or die together in this fight. Zhuo Fan used his belt to tie Gu Santong close to him, filled with the will to die. His son was no different. Shangwan Feiyun was touched by their determination. They were sure to become great in the future. A shame it will be cut short today. Since Grandmaster Gu can't see reason, I'll oblige. Lacking the appreciation a fellow warrior would have of another's valor, Bailey Jingwei signaled Shangwan Feiyun. Shangwan Feiyun, send them off. Shangwan Feiyun nodded and swiped with his fingers, unleashing a terrible energy rumbling forward, giving the feeling the world might collapse. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, watching the fingers intently as sweat trickled down his brow. He wouldn't last 5 moves against Sword King Feiyun. But then again, he wasn't in it to win, but to survive. Therein lay the slim chance at life. He was now following the plan he made. But each step was accompanied by mortal danger. One slip, and nothing would remain of him. He found the best solution was to get a mortal wound, and then escape, since anyone would disregard a dying person. Waves of power came from those 2 fingers, shaking the world around them. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed in golden halos. Ready to act, even as sweat poured from his brow, Shangwan Feiyun's sword had such power and speed that not even Shift might get him out of the woods. The only hope of survival was to use it the instant the attack was released. Any later, and life was forfeit. Any later, and the enemy would notice and just switch directions, resulting in life and death hung on that one tiny window. There was no room for errors. Zhuo Fan was under a lot of pressure because of it, as this was his first time facing a Sword King, the peak power of the mortal domain. The soaked back attested to that. Whoosh! Shangwan Feiyun moved his fingers in Zhuo Fan's direction, and the sword was released. It was then Zhuo Fan's divine Eye of the Void activated just as the attack reached Zhuo Fan. He flickered and was gone. The sword struck the wall of dust behind. Blowing it away, he dodged it. How? Shangwan Feiyun exclaimed. But soon there was a ripple coming from his front. Zhuo Fan wasn't going for an escape, but to attack a Sword King. All of them were shocked. How much nerve does this punk have? His keen senses made him aware of Zhuo Fan's location. And although shocked, Shangwan Feiyun used his Yuan Qi again to form sword energy in his fingers, even as Zhuo Fan was in the middle of appearing. Shangwan Feiyun's second attack was ready just as he became visible and mocked Zhuo Fan. Humph! You have some guts to face me instead of running. You must really have a death wish. Thunder Flame Void Annihilation. His right eye flashed in 2 golden halos while his right burned, unleashing the attack he had in store. The Thunder Flame shot for Shangwan Feiyun like a black pillar of death. Right for his head, Shangwan Feiyun shook from seeing the deadly Thunder Flame again, and his heart jumped in fright. He was frantic in using a Yuan Qi shield, doing anything he could to keep that thing from touching him, all while his second sword struck Zhuo Fan. At such close range, Zhuo Fan had no chance of dodging or running. Not even his soul would survive this. This great and deadly power made Zhuo Fan's face burn and his scalp numb. It was now reality that had strayed from Zhuo Fan's flawless predictions. Shangwan Feiyun, who had always been looking down on him so far, had been so scared he began to take the youth seriously. It was at the same time that he felt threatened from the core of his heart. Chapter 939. Shock. Chapter 939. Shock. Proofreader, Papatonks. With a muffled sound, the black thunder flame struck, but unlike sticking to the Yuan Qi shield as before, it went right through it like paper and straight for his flesh. Shangwan Feiyun panicked in fear. Overwhelmed by the power of the thunder flame, going beyond his expectation, what Shangguan Yulin had demonstrated through his detonation was the thunder flame's intrinsic power. Not when it was used as a skill like now. As for the thunder flame void annihilation, that was Zhuo Fan combining his two ultimate skills to break any kind of obstacle and letting the thunder flame's deadly nature capitalize on its true power. What could a measly Yuan Qi shield amount to when it could cut through the Shangguan clan's 12th great array, made with all their experts? With fear vivid in his look and with terror in his heart, Shangguan Feiyun rushed to dodge this deadly move. This, in turn, affected his aim on the sword that was meant for Zhuo Fan, leading to it shooting someplace else and leveling another 50 miles area. Turning into a dust storm, the destructive black thunder flame streaked past his shoulder and far beyond. Shangguan Feiyun felt its vibrant and burning power as it passed, making his blood run cold the amount of times the great best in eastern lands, now a sword king, felt such unfiltered terror from his incredibly close brush with death could be counted on one hand. It was far too soon to relax, though, as sizzling jarred his ears. He whipped his head around, and the view had his legs feeling like jelly. The deadly black flames were on his clothes and were eating their way to his body. Shangguan Feiyun shook at once and used Yuan Qi to shake the clothing off, making the flames die out as the remnants of clothing burned out. Whoosh. Then another sound entered his ears, and watched as Zhuo Fan, with young Sanzi in his arms, appeared again in front. His left eye was filled with violent black flames, while his right shone in two golden halos, planning to make a repeat of the previous move, but the horror had been too memorable for Shangguan Feiyun the first time to allow it to happen again. Not even facing death felt so horrible. Shangguan Feiyun saw Zhuo Fan appearing and jumped back with no delay. 10 kilometers, in fact. When he finally sensed some semblance of safety, he eased a breath he didn't know he was holding, feeling drained as if from a fight with invincible sword. He gasped for breath, his feeble legs barely keeping him from falling. There was even a conspicuous change in color on Sword King Shangguan's pants, quite obvious to any observer. Bailey Jingwei and Dan Xingshun had their jaws hanging. "Come on, Sword King Feiyun. You're supposed to be a Sword King. So what are you doing looking so worn out after an exchange with a puny Radiant Stage cultivator? What a scandal. Your top is naked for having your clothes ruined and your lower half wet for being scared to death by a measly Radiant Stage alchemist." Bailey Jingwei's mouth twitched, anger clearly showing. Just as he was about to curse, he then understood the Thunder Flame's fatal danger, so Prime Minister looked heavily at the panting Zhuo Fan. Gu Yifan wasn't just making wild boasting when he said he'd fight a Sword King. This kid is truly frightening. Dan Xingshun nodded. The Black Flame's power can kill a Sword King. If only he was a bit stronger than that attack. He stopped, hearing the snapping of Bailey Jingwei's knuckles and his heavy tone. There's no way he'll get any stronger. First I wanted to kill him because I wanted to, but now it's for the safety of the Empire. There can only be one invincible sword in this world. There's no room for a second dreaded existence. Dan Xingshun's brow shook, his eyes flashing. The boy's too outstanding. And then there's that black flame that can threaten a Sword King from as weak as a Radiant Stage. He will become the second invincible sword. Bailey Jingwei is sure to even disregard the soaring sword if it means killing him. Dan Xingshun held his beard, deep in thought. Shangguan Feiyun was looking worse for wear. Then the anger exploded from him as he glared at Zhuo Fan with bloodthirst. I'll not stand this punk for drawing another breath after that humiliation. Shangguan Feiyun brought his fingers out and struck with another sword. He no longer looked casual, but focused like when fighting an equal, while keeping his senses sharp for any disturbance within a kilometer, just in case Zhuo Fan sighed. I know I'm still too weak to deal with a Sword King. Any other Genesis stage cultivator would have burned alive by now. After attacking a Sword King, if the first time failed, the second time would never present itself, though it all fell within his parameters, thus taking the sensible option and bolting Bailey Jingwei and Dan Xingshun did not follow, knowing Zhuo Fan was Shangguan Feiyun's prey. He was not about to let this guy escape. It's a bit late for that. Shangguan Feiyun snickered out of reflex, his fingers shining as he unleashed a world-shaking surge of power. No matter how far Zhuo Fan got, it would still kill him. This was the terrible power of a Sword King. Zhuo Fan could shake him with his earlier display of Thunder Flame, but that was all he could muster. Shangwan Feiyun was more clear on this than any as he spoke after calming down. Humph, Gu Yifan, I gotta hand it to you. You're a real genius. You've excelled in strength and in alchemy. That flame of yours had me running scared there, and given time, you might kill me one day, becoming the next overlord to this world. Too bad you showed yourself so soon, and you won't get the chance. I'll make sure of it. That black flame is only useful if it touches me. Gu Yifan, you have no chance now. Shangwan Feiyun swiped his fingers, and the soaring sword art was deployed in the form of a third sword, straight for Zhuo Fan and his son Wush. The edge was behind him in a flash. Zhuo Fan looked back in shock and used the 5 shining halos in his right eye. Divine Eye of the Void's 5th stage, Thunder Flame Wall times 5. The black Thunder Flame appeared once more, forming 5 layers in total. To block the incoming sword, Shangwan Feiyun gaped, not expecting Zhuo Fan to come up with that. Using the strange black flame as defense, it would have worked wonders if it were anyone else than a Sword King Boom. The walls disintegrated in a flash, turning into motes of black fire as they faded in the air. Zhuo Fan shook and spat blood from the strong aftershock. Both of his eyes were also bleeding after the sword energy. It still went for Zhuo Fan. Gu Yifan, even with that oddity helping you, with your power, you have no... Shangwan Feiyun cackled victoriously, but then he choked, turning incredulous. What the hell? My sword energy. Chapter 940, Edge of Death. Chapter 940, Edge of Death. Proofreader, Papatonks. SSS. The sizzling was the only prevalent sound around, stinging Shangwan Feiyun ears as he watched his ultimate sword skill going through Zhuo Fan's walls of thunder flame, only to be eaten away by the same fire by the time the fire died out. The sword energy was a quarter weaker. It was still strong, yes, but it was without a doubt cut down to size, if before the sword came from Shangwan Feiyun. Now it looked to be resembling any average Genesis expert sword attack, sure. It'd be a peak one, but the gap was huge. All the same central area spread beyond anyone could imagine and was teeming with peak Genesis experts. Despite that there were only 9 Sword Kings, that was because they were a cut above the masses. Shangwan Feiyun's casual sword strike had crushed 30 Genesis stage guards a while back. Danxing Shun's sword was the same, putting most of the Shangwan clan's experts in a pickle. This was the power of Sword King. Unlike any other peak Genesis expert, able to take on 5 of them with ease, even with the mortal domain's limit stuck at peak Genesis stage. These 9 Sword Kings stood above all others if not for the mortal domain's limit. These would have long since become saints, at the same level as the experts in the sacred domain, if not higher. They might even shake some monsters out there. This peak worldly power had just been cut down to size by Zhuo Fan's Thunder Flame, turning into something common and weaker. The shock was palpable to the trio watching, and so it was for Zhuo Fan too. He was the one on the receiving end in this fight, yet none underestimated him. Shangwan Feiyun's eyes shook. The black flame ate at my sword energy so quickly. This is insane. How the hell does such a thing even exist? The other 2 sighed. Their fear of Zhuo Fan was not for his strength, but because of the apocalyptic thunder flame. The flame was too destructive, burning anything and everything in creation. Not even martial arts could survive it. Such a thing had never happened, ever. It was only a question of quantity in the black flame's case. With enough of it, any cultivator would be erased from this world. Their Yuan Qi shields would be eaten, and their martial arts would fare no better. It wasn't a leap in logic to assume spiritual items would end up the same. This thunder flame was like hellfire, bringing eternal and absolute doom. If word got out, Zhuo Fan would become this entire world's enemy. Wielding the thunder flame was like having a weapon of mass destruction. The trio tensed as they watched Zhuo Fan, each with their own thoughts. Zhuo Fan was bleeding from his eyes, but not enough to shake his calm, even finding time to smirk. By cutting the sword energy down to size, he could now handle it. Zhuo Fan ignored his damaged eye and had his right eyes shine in two golden halos while his left flicker with the thunder flame. Unleashing thunder flame, void annihilation, once more at the soaring sword art the flames struck the sword, but they were once more dispersed as it went after Zhuofan. Still Zhuofan suffered from it as well. With a splitting headache and spitting blood, even as his eyes bled more, none of it mattered though, since he had the pride to grin in the moment of clashing, even as his attack failed. The Thunder Flame's character was unstoppable, and with void annihilation to complement it, it sent the flames right into the heart of the sword energy. This, in turn, made the deadly sword weaker and weaker. By the times the flames died, the sword energy was at a fresh Genesis stage. Cultivator's level Shangwan Feiyun was dumbstruck in 2 moves. This great Sword King's prideful sword art was reduced so much that was all the damage it could actually do after the other tried to stop. Any meager Genesis stage cultivator could easily flick it away. Something that bruised Shangwan Feiyun's ego, at least Gu Yifan, was just a Radiant stage cultivator, and even this much was enough if Sword King Feiyun couldn't kill a guy in even 3 moves. He might as well just kill himself. Sure, the other was just a Radiant stage cultivator, but a Sword King still had his pride. Zhuofan had other plans in mind, besides giving his life to heal this Sword King's hurt ego. Grinning, Zhuofan showed confidence against the cut-down sword attack from a Sword King and used Divine Eye of the Void's 4th stage Thunderflame domain. Boom! 1,000 meters around him, the space hummed, with the black thunder flames spreading everywhere. With each vibration, the sword energy did not disintegrate under the vibrations. Instead, it slowed down, while being drastically weakened from the thunder flame. This was Zhuofan's method of dealing with the deadly sword energy, chipping it away until it was easy for his wounded self to take it, of course. It was not enough to halt the sword energy completely, as it finally reached Zhuofan, but through the many trials, it was now at the power of mid-soul harmony stage. More than enough for Zhuofan to handle. Grinning, Zhuofan had his scarlet right hand lifted in complete confidence. So much for a Sword King's power. I could still take it. Zhuofan had forgotten about one crucial fact about this sword, something that made it pierce his almighty right hand, even weakened, as it was blood spilled all over, and Zhuofan's smugness turned to shock. How? Why can't the Qilin arm stop, even a soul harmony expert sword? Did I miscalculate? Spewing blood again, Zhuofan held Gu Santong close as he fell to the ground with a bang. Resting in his crater, his blood stained the earth around him. Dad, Dad, Gu Santong cried, his weary eyes tearing up. Zhuofan gasped. Young Sanzi, I've forgotten to take something into account, but to think it led to such a heavy wound. Now I can't even use the dragon breath pill. Dad, are we going to die? Gu Santong was just as powerless. Zhuofan rubbed his head. Are you afraid? No. Then leave it to luck. Zhuofan's eyes shone. Our lives are now in his hands, as long as he remembers the deal. Gu Santong gave an understanding nod. Zhuofan's wretched state was all due to forgetting an important detail, one that led to the weakened sword energy, reducing him to the other 3. The outcome was beyond their imagination. Shangwan Feiyun was the most shocked. There has never been anyone in this world I can't kill after 3 strikes besides the other Sword Kings, an invincible sword. Gu Yifan, since you're first, let me end you with the 4th sword. Shangwan Feiyun aimed the fingers at the wounded and unmoving man in that crater. Filled with the intent to end this, there was hatred and resentment. But most of all, humiliation, as Quarry was now defenseless, yet he was the one feeling defeated. The great Sword King had failed to kill a Radiant stage alchemist in 3 strikes. The same way a buffed man couldn't squash an ant with his fist, people would disregard the ant's strength and mock instead the weakness of the man. Shangwan Feiyun's neck sword held all his bloodthirst. The most dangerous one the damaged Zhuofan was going to face. It was within his calculation, but deviated somewhat. Yet this little shift meant true death, even for Zhuofan. Chapter 941. Back against the wall, / backed into a corner. Chapter 941. Back against the wall, / backed into a corner. Proofreader, Papatonks. First is a show of strength to unsettle the mind. Second is baiting to get every guard out of the jail and give me time to rescue him. The whole guards throughout the city will be drawn as well, making our escape all the much easier. The plan does sound solid, but will they fall for it so easily? Shangguan Yulin hates Shangguan clan head to the marrow, thus making Shangguan Yulin detonate himself in his face, and with you raiding the manor, his mind will jump to conclusions I wanted out of rage. He'll believe beyond any shadow of a doubt that clan head is behind this, while I'll also scare the guards with this attack, making them feel safe only around Shangguan Feiyun, thus leaving the jail free to rescue him. This plan has a very good chance of duping Shangguan Feiyun, but that might not go the same for the wisest man in the empire, Bailey Jingwei. His reputation precedes him, and it's guaranteed he'll see through it. But no matter how shrewd he is, he has one glaring flaw I can exploit. What? Untold greed, ha ha. Though it's not really a glaring weakness, since any highly skilled manipulator will feel greater desire in always wanting things to go his way. The Pill King convention is the perfect example. He knew where all of you were hiding and laid a bait for the perfect trap to catch all of you. He is a man with a clear objective and great patience. So no matter what doubts he might have about anything, he won't act on them, but instead seek to outdo me in the same field by using this alluring bait. In that case, we should outdo him as well by following his plan of saving young Sanzi from the manor. Then what? Hunting me down to the ends of the world. I reckon they'd catch up in an hour or two. Escaping again will be even harder. Won't they just kill you? Yeah. Only with death staring you in the face will you see the light of tomorrow. This is the only way for the two of us to escape Bailey Jingwei's hunt and leave the central area. Shangguan clan head should just forget about it, since I have my own plans. Boom! Heavy rumbling came from afar, with a cloud of dust rising in the horizon, so high it covered the sun and the blue sky. Shangguan Feixiong's team was hovering high in the air. As he recalled Zhua Fan's foolproof plan back in the cave, his eyes were fixed on the source of those loud sounds. His gaze heavy, he sighed. Everything went exactly as the kid speculated. Bailey Jingwei and the other two went after the kid to catch him. He's got valor and smarts, anticipating the enemy's moves, even Bailey Jingwei. One venerable shook his head in worry. Just what could the kid do to escape from two sword kings and a prime minister? The rest were heavy frowns. Yeah, what could he do? There were so many of us, and not even we could save anyone from the two sword kings. There's no point worrying. He said he had a way, and that's that. Shangguan Feixiong sighed. It's quite amazing how everyone started caring about him. In just a few days, ha. One venerable huffed. Who is? We're only lamenting the death of such a genius. And who are we going to take it out on if he dies without giving us the sword? Ha. Venerable can relax in this case. He said back in the cave that he'll hand it over once he escapes with his son. I'd already sent men over to wait. Once Bailey Jingwei and the others leave, we'll look for the kid to hand it over. Feixiong, are you just going to believe his words? He's too cunning. Another venerable chuckled. Shangguan Feixiong showed a look of glee, nodding determined. I do, because he swore on his son. I don't believe any parent would toy with their children. He will keep his word. The others shook and nodded. And if he dies, there's a chance his plan will fall through. He'll still leave us with a trail so we can find the divine sword. Shangguan Feixiong looked at the disturbance once more with shaky eyes. Even if they die, he'll keep his words, only wishing to give the two of them proper burial, to give his son his blessing. The men looked at the clan head and then nodded in silence. Gu Yifun's mind was more twisted than a gnarled root, but one thing they could all swear on was his undying love for his son. Shangguan Feiyun's fourth sword unleashed a terrible aura, making the air shimmer around it. Zhua Fan stared back with a grin, in utter calm. As he waited, he chuckled at some point, closing his eyes and resigning himself to fate. It was done without an ounce of regret, welcoming the end with a free heart. With no hope of the two lovers getting back together, with enemies too strong to be overcome, nothing could ever get him out of such a hopeless situation. Zhua Fan had carried so much weight inside him these past years, coming to bear too much alone. Even with the faint glimmer of hope presented to him, it felt always out of reach, always unattainable to stress and grief, had eaten away at his mind for such a long time. It was a recipe for disaster, avoiding insanity only because he trained the true self-art to center himself. The deeper the love, the heavier the wound. He now came to see why love was forbidden to demonic cultivators. For one man alone might never escape its torment. He found being in a situation where another was giving him a mercy killing was a fit ending. He should have died ages ago. Showing a smile only he understood, Zhuo Fan welcomed the end home. Shangguan Feiyun's sword rang constantly, aimed squarely at Zhuo Fan's head. As the bloodthirst in his eyes focused, the devastating sword was released. Zhuo Fan could feel its terror, but all he had for it was a faint smile. Shangguan Feiyun's fingers did not finish cutting the air and ascending the sword. As they were caught mid-move by a tight hand, Shangguan Feiyun spoke in a chilling tone. "Brother Dan, what are you doing?" Bailey Jingwei was taken aback. "I just think we should save it for after we find the soaring sword." Dan Qing Shun's beard swished as he spoke. Shangguan Feiyun huffed. With his character, there's no way he'll say anything. And is this a time to think about the soaring sword? He has now become a far greater danger than the sword's value. He has to die, right, Prime Minister? Bailey Jingwei nodded after a pause. Soaring sword is missing, and the patriarch will at most feel a longing for a lost toy. What we can't allow, however, is to permit anything that might endanger his life. The moment I saw the kid release the black flame, I was even more sure that he must die. It's clear to anyone here that it must be so, but wouldn't it be better to have it both ways? Dan Qingshin nodded and turned to the unmoving Zhuo. Gu Yifan, you heard it. Today's your funeral, and you can't take the soaring sword where you're going. I am willing to fulfill your last wish, your will. You've come from the western lands and have been in the central area for a year now. You should understand that I hardly make promises, but when I do, I always keep them. Now tell me your dying wish. Zhuo Fan looked in the eye with a smile. Ha, let my son go. Impossible. Bailey Jingwei denied on the spot. Gu Yifan, you yourself said something about weeding out the remains. We'll never allow this threat to live. Zhuo Fan chuckled. Then there's nothing else. Damn rotten dying brat. Since you love death so much, have it all. Shangguan Feiyun's fingers cut the air again. Zhuo Fan's eyes lit up and waved him off. Hold up. There is one other, however. It just came to me. Then go ahead, say it. Dan Qing Shun frowned, looking from him to Shangguan Feiyun. Zhuo Fan smirked. I only wish for Dragon Cleaving Sword King to be the one ending me. What? I'd hate to see Shangguan Feiyun happy. 3 times he failed to kill me, and I'd rather not have his 4th sword touch a hair on me. Let this Sword King carry the shame with him always, ha. Zhuo Fan cackled. Shangguan Feiyun's face twitched and roared, his fingers finishing the move. Goddamned bastard. I'll frickin' kill you. Wait. Bailey Jingwei stopped him, turning to Zhuo Fan with a sharp gaze. All right, we agree. Chapter 942, Sand Burial. Chapter 942, Sand Burial. Proofreader, Papatonks. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed. Even without Dragon Cleaving Sword King's promise, I would guarantee your last meager dying wish in exchange for the soaring sword. We all promise. Prime Minister, Shangguan Feiyun's brow shook, but Bailey Jingwei's wave stopped him. Sword King Feiyun, please think of the bigger picture. Which is more important, your name or the soaring sword? Its loss affected Sword King's reputation all the same. In other words, Soaring Sword's name has already suffered. So what is a little more? Please bear this indignity for the Empire. Shangguan Feiyun took a look at his most pathetic state. It wasn't the missing sleeve from one arm that got to him, but the damp pants that fueled his rage and shame. But in the end, he gave an angry wave and turned around, taking out fresh clothes to change. Bailey Jingwei nodded and smiled. Sword King Feiyun has promised you as well. That should be all, yes? Ha ha ha. Yeah. Now I can tell you where the soaring sword is. Only, it's another matter entirely if you can get it. Zhuo Fan showed a crooked smile to an eager Bailey Jingwei, toying with him. Soaring sword is now with the Shangguan clan. Bailey Jingwei gasped. They have it. Grandmaster Gu, are you making fun of us? How can a cunning mind like yours just hand it over to them? Ha ha, what else was there? His loud laughter made him spray blood as well. We all know I've had priors with Shangwan clan, so I had to give them something to help me out. Shangwan Feiyun's brow shook, his face heavy as he said, Bailey Jingwei, letting those Shangwan bastards get the sword will be even worse. With their power and numbers, they'll just flee and we won't catch them. It'll be hard, even if a Sword King gets involved. Moreover, once they hole up in the expansive central area, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Even if we do get wind of them by some miracle, the scouting team will just die for nothing without a Sword King leading them. This is really getting out of hand. Bailey Jingwei squinted, his face grave. But he did not once let his eyes stray from Zhuo Fan. Grandmaster Gu, stop with the games. You're on your deathbed. You said you had priors with them, and they won't believe you. But this goes both ways. Do you trust them? You'd have gotten a short end of the stick if you'd have just handed them the sword. They'd have just taken it out on you to vent for their losses. For a smart guy like you, such an obvious mistake is impossible. Humph, Grandmaster Gu, don't take us up for idiots. Bailey Jingwei huffed, his eyes sharp. Shangwan Feiyun's face twitched. Who is Bailey Jingwei calling an idiot? Humph, damn that Prime Minister, acting like the only wise guy in the world. Prime Minister, would you say I'm in a position to insult you? Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan shook his head, but yes, neither I nor Shangwan clan trust each other, so the handing of the sword is done at the right time, so that we'd work out together against the enemy. Once the deal is done, neither will mind the other. Bailey Jingwei's eyes shook. You mean, you are our enemy? All three of you, ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan chuckled as he explained. I used them to lure you all away and rescue young Sanzi, then handed over the sword to the clansmen following behind me. This was the only way to make both sides agree. We knew that fighting would be bad as it would draw the guards over, leading to them losing the sword and us getting captured. So even with the mistrust between us, the timing called for us to overlook all our past problems and think of the bigger picture. Wouldn't you say so, Prime Minister Bailey? Bailey Jingwei shook all over, believing Zhuo Fan's perfectly strung arguments. Shangwan Feiyun asked, Prime Minister, can we believe him? We don't have a choice. Bailey Jingwei was tense. We were clear on the hostility between him and the Shangwan clan, and working together was out of the question. The only reason they did it anyway was for the soaring sword. The question is, when will it be handed over? Too soon, and the Shangwan clan will go back on its word. Too late, and anxiety mounts. So much so the tense mood will make them settle old scores even after getting the sword. But with the threat of another enemy around, the deal will be completed, each going their own way. Bailey Jingwei stared hard at Zhuo Fan and spoke with frustration and hatred. Grandmaster Gu, you're a true mastermind. You've done great indeed. If I were the one facing such a challenge, I don't think I'd come up with such a brilliant plan on the spot. You have my respect. Ha ha ha. Why thank you for the honor, Prime Minister. Zhuo Fan waved his flattery away. Bailey Jingwei read the mockery in his eyes and turned to Danqing, Shun in anger. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, fulfill Grandmaster Gu's will and send them off. Right. Danqing Shun drew 2 fingers and a deadly power surged in their tips, followed by a dragon roar, and the space shimmering around him. Cold eyes gazed upon the feeble Zhuo Fan, and Danqing Shun raised his hand. Zhuo Fan stared back with a broad smile. Whoosh! A sword of the same level as Shangwan Feiyun's was unleashed upon Zhuo Fan. Along with thousands of dragon roars, the sword energy surged as it fell on him, following the devastating explosion. Hundreds of miles around Zhuo Fan and his son were leveled. There was nothing there than a wasteland and thick dust that dyed the world yellow once the breeze scattered it away. There was no trace of anything left behind. Everything was gone. Buried with the sand, the entire landscape had been reformed into this desolation. Bailey Jingwei sighed at the destruction. It is finished. Such an alchemical genius of his generation found his bones resting along his sons in this sand burial. What a pity. Prime Minister, isn't it a bit late for that? Shangwan Feiyun glanced over. Hypocrite much? Bailey Jingwei said, cherishing talent is one thing, but seeing my opponent gone brought me such relief. Dragon-cleaving Sword King, Sword King Fei Yun, let's go. We need to hurry back and send word to every corner of the central area. We have to track down the Shangwan clan and stop them from getting the sword out of the central area. Easier said than done. Shangwan Fei Yun shook his head. I'll say it again. They only need to hide, and even a Sword King will hardly have a better chance of finding them, let alone the rest. The chances of getting the soaring sword back are less than 10%. Bailey Jingwei sighed. We'll do our part, while the rest is up to fate. In any case, this has been our failure. Bailey Jingwei flew. For Flying Cloud City, Shangwan Fei Yun shook, balling his fists and stealing his gaze. Bailey Jingwei isn't the only one culpable. With the Shangwan clan escaping and the soaring sword gone, Shangwan Fei Yun was liable as well. Gu Yifan might have lost in the last fight. As a mere Radiant Stage cultivator, he had avoided 3 sword skills from a Sword King and even talked his way out of being executed by the 4th strike at his weakest. It was Shangwan Fei Yun's worst defeat. Gu Yifan and Shangwan Fei Yun neither won nor lost, but Zhuo Fan's last will and the mockery it contained was something Shangwan Fei Yun would never forget. The shame and anger were ready to explode. It was the same as saying Shangwan Fei Yun had no hand in his death. Shangwan Fei Yun's face twisted, a vein popping on his forehead. From being utterly humiliated by a nobody, now he had no one to take it out on. For the culprit died laughing at him. Shangwan Fei Yun stomped in rage and flew behind Bailey Jingwei. Dan Shan was the only one remaining, looking where Zhuo Fan once was with a vague smile. Chapter 943, Deceptive Outcome. Chapter 943, Deceptive Outcome. Proofreader, Papatonks. Gu Yifan, Young Sanzi, where are you? 6 hours later, in the area where a brutal cleansing had taken place, where not even a blade of grass grew, a pure and naive girl was shouting. The frail lass cried at the silent heavens as a gale blew across this desolation. Her tone was filled with worry, her cracking voice showing signs of breaking down, crying. There were a dozen more youths looking around and shouting with her. Mr. Gu, Young Sanzi. All their shouting and searching proved fruitless in these strong winds. Swallowing their voices, they finally gave up hope an hour later, leaving only the girl still frantic and consumed with the thought of finding them. She never stopped, never rested, always crying out till hoarse. Gu Yifan, Young Sanzi, where are you? Young miss, save your energy. You seen what attack did this. They had no chance against such misfortune. There's no point searching. One youth sighed. It'll be a miracle if someone could survive 2 Sword Kings. Mr. Gu, let's follow clan head's words and look for any clues Mr. Gu left us to reach the soaring sword. The girl glared back at him. Shut up. Gu Yifan is fine. They can hear us, and we'll soon find them. They have to be, or Shangwan Qingyan trailed off. Young miss, in this desolate place, any kind of sign would have been noticed easily. If we can't see them, it makes no sense for 2 Sword Kings to be blind to anything obvious. That only leaves death, destroyed completely. Young miss, our top priority still is finding Mr. Gu's clues. He shook his head, trying to make her see reality, but then a ripple echoed out. 2 figures slumped to the ground, popping out of thin air and soaking the yellow dust with their scarlet blood. Shangwan Qingyan shook and cheered, crying tears of joy as she rushed over. Mr. Gu, Young Sanzi, you're all right. You're still alive. In the name of all that's holy, the guy actually got away from 2 Sword Kings. What did this freak do? The guy held his head in complete shock, needing some time to react to this sudden realization. Then he rushed over to help, only for a bloody arm to clutch his shirt. Dragging him down, he looked stunned at Zhuo Fan, who was gasping for breath, using the last of his energy to shout, I told you to come and help, not give me a burial. The least you could do is see if we're still alive, not go straight to business. Zhuo Fan's eyes rolled back, and he was out like a light. Only his other hand held an unconscious Gu Santong, never letting go. The youth who got stained looked at Zhuo Fan holding Gu Yifan close and spoke with respect. Gu Yifan is truly amazing. He's hurt so much but still has the energy to curse. He had been protecting his son all this time, not letting anything happen to him. Shangguan Qingyan nodded, choking with emotion and pain from seeing Zhuo Fan covered in those deep wounds. Get Mr. Gu and his son back now. They need healing. Noticing Shangguan Qingyan was in no state to boss them, the guy shouted for the others, carrying the two away across the large expanse of this yellow wasteland. A conspicuous stain of scarlet blood on the dry dirt was the only proof that someone had survived this ordeal. It took Zhuo Fan 3 days to wake up, finding himself in a dark cave. Nothing came as a surprise for him. Knowing that they had been rescued, it was part of his deal with Shangguan Feixiong. As long as they were drawing breath, they had to be tended to, or death was sure to grasp them in its cold grip if left out there in the desolate place. Shangguan clan thus sent the juniors to save them. This was why Zhuo Fan knew that after saving young Sanzi, the Shangguan clan would comply since he still held the sword. They wanted this was the perfect time to use it for all it's worth. With this sword around, the Shangguan clan won't ever let me die. If the chances were death would have come instead, he'd have set the sword out of his ring for Shangguan clan to take. He didn't need it where he was going. Zhuo Fan had taken all aspects into consideration. On one hand, he had bluffed Bailey Jingwei into leaving, and on the other, he had Shangguan clan eating out of his palm. The thought brought an insidious smile to Zhuo Fan's lips, resting as he was on the cold hard bed. Ha ha ha! At the end of it all, be it Flying Cloud Manor or Shangguan clan, all dance to my tune. I have turned despair into hope once more. Cackling like mad, Zhuo Fan stood up, only to feel a sudden pain stab at his mind. The agony coming from every part of his body made him grit his teeth. Damn that Danqing Shun. Couldn't he have taken it easier? Then again, being ruthless was the only way of fooling Shangguan Feiyun's senses and intuition. A faint and childish voice came. Dad, you told him to, and now you're blaming him for it. If the old man knew you're cursing him, he'd wished he'd killed you instead. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow, smiling. Young Sanzi, you knew. Of course. Gu Santong just woke up, still pale but quite happy. Is there anything I don't know about you? Ever since you had Shangguan Yulin sent to give me some nonsense signal, I knew that it wasn't meant for me. We never had private code phrases. What's that stuff about a gentleman's promise and wanting to save me anyway? I knew then, and there it was for that old guy's ears. Too bad Bailey Jingwei and Shangguan Feiyun had no clue whatsoever. Ha ha ha. Zhuo Fan nodded. Yep, the signal was for Danqing Shun, though I was still skeptical if he'd help or not. The most uncertain part of my plan was whether the old guy would play ball for the greatest deceptive outcome ever. His sword was savage and powerful, but scattered on impact, shaking the space around and hiding us from Shangguan Feiyun's senses. I used this chance to activate Divine Eye of the Void 6th stage, Void Domain, and hit us in a pocket space. It also helped cement the idea of our demise to Bailey Jingwei and leave the area. And what if the old guy didn't help us? Gu Santong asked. Zhuo Fan shook his head. The idea was to make an opening for Danqing Shun to strike by becoming heavily wounded in 3 clashes with Shangguan Feiyun. Next was up to him. If he was going to help, he was sure to speak up. If not, I'd have no choice but to resort to a dragon breath pill. But then everything went south when Shangguan Feiyun struck me so hard that I couldn't even move, making throwing the dragon breath pill useless. There was only one way of getting out of there alive. Thank God the old guy was still nice. I finally get it now. There's no man proposes, God deposes, not when you have enough friends. More friends means more lives. Why all the hassle, Dad? Just throw him a dragon breath pill to his face and be done. Young Sanzi, we only have 2 of them. Zhuo Fan rolled his eyes. It's easy to kill them all with one, but then what? With a prime minister and a sword king dead, the Sword Star Empire will then send the other 7 sword kings after us. That'll be the end of us. Even with 1 dragon breath pill left, can we get them all? Young Sanzi, no matter what a man does, even if it's wrong, he has to suffer the consequences. Using the dragon breath pill will end with us being hunted down and killed. We're not the Shangguan clan. We have no one to shield us. The Central Area's Genesis stage experts can't handle them, even if found. We, on the other hand, are finished. That's why a trump card like that can't be used unless it's the only one available. We're not on Invincible Sword's level, so we can't use it to mow down grunts. Young Sansi nodded, but then muttered, but you used one on Universal Righteous Sect, and only got two now. Dad, didn't you mow them down? Fan flushed for being stuck. Men are impulsive. I just wanted to know its power. That's all, huh? Chapter 944, Bane. Chapter 944, Bane. Proofreader, Papatonks. Father and son were having the time of their lives by themselves in that dark cave. Every now and then, Fan had to wince and gasp from having pain stab his every wound for being too much into their game and ignoring his heavy condition, yet found it passing faster by cursing their savior each time. Damn rotten Dan Shun. You just couldn't take it easier. Just that sword aura was enough to flame my skin. The old coot never heard of a softer touch. Dan Shun's rage would have blown sky high. Only if he was here, of course. Damn punk. I just saved your pathetic life. And this is the thanks I get, being called names? Gu Santong had a grin on his pale face, thoroughly enjoying his dad's lively and childish act. Young Sansi, how are you feeling? I'm now too wounded to tend to your situation, but once I'm better, I'll get you back on your feet in no time. Fan hurriedly asked. Gu Santong's smile fell for a second, shaking his head. Dad, it's fine. I'm just feeling weakened and the wounds are healing. The Shangwan clan gave me plenty of healing pills. That's great. Even their poor pills, unlike mine, can help your wounds. Ha ha ha. Zhua Fan chuckled. At ease, Gu Santong's smile soon turned upside down, taken by melancholy. Zhua Fan could tell that it was different with the other hand, as the blood was still seeping out despite the tight wrap around it. Rumble. The stone door opened, breaking the heavy silence. Shangwan Qingyin and the same youth Zhua Fan grabbed back in the wasteland entered. The girls saw them waking up and cheered. You're up. Thanks for the save. Zhua Fan smiled. Shangwan Qingyin smiled back, coming over to him and looking concerned. Mr. Gu, your body is a wreck. Are you sure it's fine? We've used many pills, and while your other wounds healed, you don't have to worry about it. I'm an alchemist too. As long as my soul is fine, the flesh can be mended. Zhua Fan's hand shone, and a vial came out. Taking out a green pill, the thick aroma was intoxicating, making the other clansmen cry out, by God, using a 10th grade pill just for some flesh wounds? An alchemist is a different breed than our clan. Ha ha ha, it's only for the common ones, while young Sansi will need a more particular solution. That's why I need to get back in shape to making the right pill. Zhua Fan ate the pill and used the returning dragon's roar as dragons roared about. Zhua Fan was brimming with vitality. The returning dragon's roar was the best thing when it came to patching up the body. A shame it didn't work on souls as well, with the healing pill complementing the returning dragon's roar. The two watched in shock as Zhua Fan's wounds barely closed at all. Zhua Fan then felt a stabbing pain from every inch of his body. Zhua Fan looked down with a frown. What's with these weird wounds that can't heal? They feel the same as the one vaulting sword gave me back in Double Dragon Manor. The Shangwan clansman chuckled. Mr. Gu, you must have been hit by Dragon Cleaving Sword King's dragon cleaving art. Despite the difference between his sword art and ours, they both come from insights in a divine sword. Wounds inflicted by such weapons will be hard to heal. I still thought you'd need 10 more days before you could stand. It's a miracle you're doing this now. An 11th grade alchemist sure heals fast, ha ha. Wounds from those sword arts heal slowly. Zhua Fan soon came to his own conclusion as to why. The wound vaulting sword inflicted back then took ages to heal too, since Dan Shun's art came from the vaulting sword, which hurt him. Does that mean the sword art captured the divine sword's essence? Regardless of doubts, this was the conclusion he came to. Common folk being around a sacred weapon for long enough, they have its sword energy used for their cultivation, facilitating not only their training in a godlike sword art, but also unleashing greater power when using it. It was top-notch regardless of the stage it was used in. Is it maybe the power of the sword sovereign? Deep in thought, the casual movement of his right reminded him of the pain and winced. The pain coming from his body earlier subsided after using the pill and the returning dragon's roar. The issue now was the right hand. Shangwan Qingyan took his right hand and complained, "Easy, we've just bandaged it, but the bleeding won't stop." Zhuo Fan shook, seeing as the wrap was dyed red. "Young miss, Shangwan Feiyun's soaring sword art must have caused the wound on his right. Anyone else would have their heal slowly, but this is so baffling that no pill works. The bandage is only temporary, and if this continues, he'll bleed out." The Shangwan guy explained. Zhuo Fan's brow shook, looking at his right in fright. He felt his forehead and, though wounded, did not bleed. Healing slowly, Shangwan Feiyun caught his gesture and said, baffled, "Mr. Gu, I looked over your condition. The wounds on your right arm have to be from Shangwan Feiyun's sword. The strange thing is it just won't heal, while the shoulder heals the same as the rest of you. I'd almost thought Shangwan Feiyun's sword was stronger than Dan Xingshun's. It's the Qilin arm." Zhuo Fan's eyelids shook, coming to a conclusion. That's why the soaring sword art at Soul Harmony stage could pierce it. The secret lies with soaring sword and soaring Qilin. The soaring sword and, in turn, the soaring sword art targets the soaring Qilin in particular. That means young Sanzi. Zhuo Fan felt sharp pain as he rushed to young Sanzi's side, holding the bandaged arm that was bleeding just like a Shangwan Qingyan gasped, hurrying to change the binding. "Young Sanzi is bleeding again. We have to stop it." "Young miss, that's only a symptom. They are both so strange, unable to heal the areas struck by the soaring sword art." The Shangwan guy shook his head. Shangwan Qingyan wouldn't give up, looking after young Sanzi with teary eyes. "Even if it doesn't heal, we have to do all we can. Having not even reached the ethereal stage, they'll die for good and won't come back." "Young Sanzi, why didn't you tell me?" Zhuo Fan balled his fists and clenched his teeth. Being in the ethereal stage, Zhuo Fan would have halted cultivation at worst, but he'd live. Young Sanzi was a sacred beast by comparison, with their body and soul as one. When one died, the other followed, and there was nothing to bring him back. Young Sanzi's bleeding condition was potentially deadly. Young Sanzi teared up, his pale lips trembling. "Dad, I felt ever since the soaring sword art hurt me that I met my bane. I can barely hold on. I didn't want to worry you. Why didn't you say anything? I'm your dad. I'm supposed to worry." Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth, taking out a vial from his ring, and revealed 2 11th grade pills under the Shangwan guy's gasp. Zhuo Fan took one and gave young Sanzi the other. "Listen, this is from when I refined to save Shangwan Qingyan. She had been hurt by the soaring sword art as well. It worked on her, and now we'll see if it works on us as well. If all else fails, I'll take you back to Western Lands." "Western Lands?" Gu Santong jumped. Zhuo Fan nodded with resolve. "We'll ask those old coots to save you. They have to know a way. So just hold on, young Sanzi." Chapter 945, Back to Western Lands. Chapter 945, Back to Western Lands. Proofreader, Papatonks. With the ingestion of the pill, Zhuo Fan and Gu Santong flashed green, meditating to work its power to heal their wounds through their body, especially that bleeding arm. The green energy gathered on the wound, but that was it. It just could not go deeper and work its magic, as something was keeping it away. Soon fading out with a soaked brow, Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth and his nails dug into his palms. Shangwan Qingyan was looking very worried from the side hum. With a ripple, Zhuo Fan resorted to force, using Yuan Qi and the healing energy to slam into the wound. All he hit was a wall. But as he kept pushing, the green energy seeped ever so slowing into the wound and began to heal it as it improved. The bleeding slowed to a stop. Shangwan Qingyan lit up with joy. Zhuo Fan eased a breath and looked at his Qilin arm with a nod. "This pill has some use." Zhuo Fan turned to young Sanzi with hope, only to find despair. Gu Santong's arm looked to have improved, but it was marginal. The bleeding had slowed down, but not completely. His life was still in a very real danger. Shangwan Qingyan gasped. "Mr. Gu, you managed to heal, so why is young Sanzi?" Zhuo Fan was in a constant frown, feeling bleak inside as the worst case crept among his thoughts. The soaring sword art may be Qilin's bane. The two conflicting energies can't be resolved with pills alone. I fear that only a sacred beast can heal another sacred beast. I can only take him to Kuanpung and Dragon Ancestor in Western lands. The question is if I'll reach them in time. I only have a Qilin arm, and since the rest of me is human, the soaring sword art isn't so harsh on me. Just who can save you? Zhuo Fan has made up his mind, holding Gu Santong in his arms and walking out. Mr. Gu, where are you going? Shangguan Qingyan asked. Taken aback, Zhuo Fan spoke. To Western lands to save him. Only Western lands has someone that can heal him. Western lands, Shangguan Qingyan muttered. But Mr. Gu, you're still hurt. Let's take you. No time. Zhuo Fan gnashed his teeth. And staying with you will only get more dangerous. It's better if I go alone with young Sanzi. Zhuo Fan had pointed out to Bailey Jingwei that the Shangguan clan had the soaring sword. Regardless of ever being able to stop them and get it back, Bailey Jingwei would still take precautions. The Shangguan clan was bound to be running around the central area for the next while and might even resort to fighting central area's experts a few times. The two were too hurt, with the sun in critical condition, to join the chaos. It would only make it worse. Zhuo Fan barely got away from Bailey Jingwei, so why would he go looking for more trouble? Zhuo Fan had come to a firm decision to leave the Shangguan clan. Shangguan Qingyan watched his straight back and sighed. She wanted him to stay, but she knew he'd do anything to save young Sanzi. There was nothing she could say to keep them here. The roller coaster of emotions she was feeling had her forget why the Shangguan clan saved them in the first place. It was all to finish the last part of their deal, so while her love-addled brain refused to work, the Shangguan guy next to her had no such handicap, crying out, Mr. Gu, we won't keep you if you want to leave, but you have to first give the divine sword you promised us. Whoosh! A clank cut him off as a scarlet sword stabbed into the bedrock. Zhuo Fan had then vanished with Gu Santong. It's good that we got the sword, or I don't know how I could have explained this to clan head. Huh. The guy held the sword in pride and said, Young miss, we should go see clan head. Shangguan Qingyan was too overwhelmed to register his words, still staring in empty space. Where Zhuo Fan had been standing, he didn't even say goodbye, not so much as look at her. 3 days later found the Shangguan clan's 300 meditating in a quiet forest in white robes. Shangguan Feixiong was frowning with worry, letting heavy breaths, yet never speaking up. Ha! A thick hand grabbed his shoulder, startling him. Hi, Venerable. What can I do for you? It's nothing, but seeing you eaten up inside these days. Are you worried? The old man smiled. Shangguan Feixiong nodded. Despite lacking danger, it's the junior's first mission. I just can't rest easy knowing the kid didn't want me to send some experts instead of youngsters. The kid is sharp. With our experts around him, he figured they'd settle the score. Ha ha. High Venerable shook his head. Feixiong, you believed him when he swore on his son. So why the needless worry? I do believe him, but no one says incidents can't happen. Whoosh. The sudden sound reached his ears, and his eyes lit up. He saw dozens of figures in the air, the juniors he sent for Zhuo Fan. In the lead was the apple of his eye. Shangguan Qingyan. Shangguan Feixiong's worries over these days finally eased the rest of the experts gathered around the juniors. Eager to know the result, Shangguan Feixiong rushed to Shangguan Qingyan to ask, How did it go? Did you get the soaring sword? Shangguan Qingyan sighed and left with a lowered head. The rest felt uneasy. Why is young miss so glum? Did the kid die and leave no trace of the soaring sword? Why then did they took so long to come back? Clan head, here is the soaring sword. The guy who was with Shangguan Qingyan around Zhuo Fan bowed and presented the scarlet long sword. Ha, lit up and touched the blade. Ha ha ha. It really is the soaring sword. Our mission is a success, and we can go home to Eastern lands. Everyone cheered and jumped in joy. Then what's with that girl having a long face? I thought you failed for a second there. Huh. Shangguan Feixiong eased a breath and glanced at his daughter, looking depressed. Upon the Shangguan guy bowed again. I believe it's because of Mr. Gu, that young miss. He explained everything that transpired, and everyone looked stunned. You're saying he's alive? Shangguan Feixiong's eyes shook. He actually came out alive from not just 2 sword kings, but the prime minister of this empire. They were aware of Zhuo Fan's plan and how reality followed its every step. But to actually achieve the last and hardest part alive was inconceivable. They found it far more believable for Zhuo Fan to die and leave clues for the divine sword instead. This made the news of Zhuo Fan's flawless execution of the plan a total shock. Chapter 946, Solitude. Chapter 946, Solitude. Proofreader, Papatonks. The guy paused, seeing everyone wearing dumb looks, and bowed again. Clan head, Gu Yifan is wise and brave, a real hero. When we found him, he was still protecting his son despite the heavy wounds. His character isn't the issue here, but being a miracle worker is. Shangwan Feixiong's face twitched and sighed. A single sword king has enough power to do everything he wants. Two of them around, they're invincible. Then there's Bailey Jingwei, the wisest in the Sword Star Empire. His intellect alone could make him a sword king if it was strength instead. Yet none of them, despite covering every aspect, could stop a radiant stage from toying with them and come out alive. Shangwan Feixiong sighed, actually relating to them. Since when could the opponent we feared so much could be controlled so easily? What's worse, can't any of the experts of our best clan in the Eastern Lands match to one radiant stage kid? Haha, what an utterly ridiculous joke. The cruel irony is even more obvious from how we lost so many people with our plan, while the kid easily got the sword without losing anything. Ha! Shangwan Feixiong shook his head hard. In defeat, the precious divine sword they all wanted so much all this time was now in their hands, but it felt flat, dull, giving them no sense of achievement whatsoever. It was because of the circumstances of the retrieval. The soaring sword wasn't recovered through their blood and sweat, but a kid did it and sold it off to them. They not once won against Shangwan Feiyun. It was the kid all along who did everything, fighting, toying, and surviving. Shangwan Feiyun was the Shangwan clan's biggest traitor, but the victory belonged to a kid's resourcefulness. None of them were better than a meager, radiant kid clan head's desolate figure, holding the divine sword, killed everyone else's joy. They felt nothing from it, not when another scored a win and just handed it over. It was a subtle contrast between taking and receiving the win that made all the effort worthwhile. By taking it yourself, you proved that you had the ability to do it, while having someone just hand it over was a humiliation. It proved the other guy was better than you, being thrown to the side by the enemy and focusing on the better adversary. Such a win felt empty to them. Having no value, they believed Shangwan Feiyun's group, when they fought, did not show any regard to them. Always thinking about Gu Yifan Shangwan clan? They're nothing. Gu Yifan, a radiant stage kid, came around out of nowhere and robbed the Shangwan clan of their honor. Sure, he got the soaring sword for them, but they didn't look quite as thankful. The three venerables knew their feelings and chuckled. Feixiong, the soaring sword is back where it belongs. We now should focus on leaving the central area. Name, reputation, glory, they come and go many times in life. As a clan head, I know none of these are important before the clan's righteousness. We're lucky to have suffered a few losses this time, ending with our win. I'm very happy to see this, but Shangwan Feixiong tensed and sighed. Having thought about everything that happened, I can't help but wonder if I'm fit to be the clan head. Feiyun was right. I'm beneath him in power and potential. I'm headstrong and can't see the bigger picture, unable to be proactive like Gu Yifan and Bailey Jingwei. Their convoluted and intricate plans open my eyes at how deep their schemes can go, of how detailed they are. I think that the next time we clash with Bailey Jingwei, I will cause the death of everyone. I, Shangwan Feixiong, am plain, with no outstanding quality. Will keeping this chair of mine help or lead to disaster? Haha, the clan might not grow much under my helm. I've seen Gu Yifan's handiwork, his cruelty. No low is beneath him, even detonating someone, but one can't deny the results either. Having him as a son-in-law might not be such a bad idea. Leaving him to take over from me will raise the clan to new heights. At least he's far more capable than me. The venerable looked him in the eye. Feixiong, we all knew there's a limit to what you can do, but do you know why we picked you? The choice was between me and Feiyun, but he was too conceited and erred constantly. Shangwan Feixiong frowned. The venerable chuckled. Everyone makes mistakes. You think we didn't let him take the seat because of some mishaps? We even had a long dispute back then over Shangguan Feiyun's talents. Why then? The venerable smiled. The ruler is to be wise and not rash, average and not proud. The former is for the royal succession to avoid vies for power. The latter is to avoid the biggest faults in one's character. Average people hardly achieve success, but they also represent stability. They need but find a capable official to assist, and they can thrive. As for the egotistic rulers, they think themselves above everyone, that they can do everything and won't ever take advice. They can take the clan out of trouble, yes, but one day it might lead it to disaster. That is why an emperor would always choose the average son over the proud one if there's no one talented and having virtue. Virtue has always been the main criteria for all ancestors. Shangguan Feixiong nodded. I see. You were afraid Feiyun's arrogance would lead to the clan's demise, so you renounced him. Then, what of Gu Yifun's virtue? The kid's virtue ain't bad. The venerable waved Shangguan Feixiong's question with a vague smile. Shangguan Feixiong jerked. Second venerable. You mean he has it? How come I don't see it? Ha ha ha. If you could, you'd have seen Shangguan Yulin's degenerate character. Feixiong, you can't judge a book by its cover. He may behave cruelly, but deep down he's a man of principles. Don't lump cruelty with being insidious. Insidiousness always strays you from the path, but his path stretches far and wide. The venerable smiled. He may be cruel and unscrupulous, but everything has a purpose. He was only after his goal when he clashed with us, but did nothing despicable. Think about it. Did he forego righteousness for gains? Did he go back on his words? And most importantly, he's a loving father that would do anything for his son. How bad can he be? Well, I've seen people far worse than him, looking dignified but resorting to atrocities when no one's looking. Such a kind and dark youth is worth making friends with, better than those insidious and petty ones. Shangguan Feixiong nodded after a pause. Yeah, the kid only clashed with us in our goal. But all he said and done is to my liking. He's like a demonic gentleman. Then my plan. Feixiong, you should just forget it. The venerable cut him off. It's not a bad idea to have him as your son-in-law. He'd also benefit the clan by having him around, but not the clan head. Why? He's far more qualified than me. Is it because of his scheming? No, his scheming is very much within reason. He's in conflict with our beliefs, as he walks the demonic path, regardless of how upright he is. The venerable said, it's just that he walks in solitude, unfit for a clan head. Solitude. He has no ties with anything but his son, let alone a clan. He can't take the helm of a clan. The venerable sighed. A clan head bears on his shoulder the fate of his people, holding within him their lives and deaths. But he is alone, without such responsibility. He is indeed capable, but not fit for a clan head. As for being like Bailey Jingwei, governing the empire or a clan head's right hand, there's no one better. Shangguan Feixiong nodded after digesting his words. He bore too much solitude to carry the weight of a leader, a loner meant to roam the world, but a cultivator communing with the world had such a quality as well. While too many mundane affairs hindered one's comprehension of the inner workings of the world, doesn't that mean it's us who were led astray from the straight and narrow? Chapter 947. Sword Patriarch appears. Chapter 947. Sword Patriarch appears. Proofreader, Papatonks. The sky was sifting large snowflakes as far as one could see, dyeing the world in shades of white. A month had gone since Zhuofan's battle. With autumn making way for winter with its cold snow in the flying cloud city, Dan Shun watched the heavy gray clouds outside, peaceful as they filled the air with snowflakes, covering the sun's every ray of warmth. Despite the glum outside, he was sitting cozily by a lively fire in a lavish room, sipping his delectable tea with a most conspicuous smirk. "Oh, Dan, when little old me's in trouble, please look after me. Boy, I didn't do it for you. I won't make it hard on Sir's old bones. All I ask is for you to strike hard, and I shall find life and death." Boy, where are you now, I wonder? Winter has come, and I'm sure even aiming my sword away from you still gave you no light injuries. Dragon cleaving art's power isn't something you can heal. Look after yourself in these winter days. Recalling their promise, Dan Shun sipped his wine, yet joy danced in his eyes. The boy has been suspicious of me till the end, going as far as sending someone to remind me in Shangwan Feiyun's hidden room. Haha, how pointless. Dragon cleaving sword king, you're in a good mood. Mind sharing with me so I can enjoy it too? I've hardly ever saw Dragon cleaving sword king smile, huh? Rows of guards entered, bowing and making way for Bailey Jingwei in fur clothing. He made himself at home, sitting right next to Dan Shan with a smile. Shangwan Feiyun came next, sitting nearby, sticking one leg over the other, looking bored to death. Brother Dan, share with us this fine mood you're having. This past month, if not dull, it has been glum. Ah, getting your paradise ruined and the divine sword taken tends to do that. Dan Shun took out a jade slip. Here's my report on my domain. There were signs of a Shangwan clan around, and I have come to ask for the next course of action. What? Shangwan Feiyun snatched the jade slip and cried. Those old fools ran off to your side of the empire? But that leads to northern lands. What are they doing there? They must be taking the long way around, through northern lands. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed and resumed sipping tea by the fire's cozy warmth. Shangwan Feiyun followed. Prime Minister, what do we do? Nothing. Bailey Jingwei sighed. The central area is just too large and gives the Shangwan clan too many places to hide. I had notified the 9 Sword Kings to look out for them in their domains, but without concrete signs to look for, they'll find nothing. Furthermore, with some Sword Kings' laid-back attitude, some not even present in their domains, things would only get harder. Prime Minister Bailey, I'm here, aren't I? Dragon-cleaving Sword King, I wasn't talking about you, but that wine sword immortal that loves to hit the bottle. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed and gnashed his teeth. He's a sword king, but all he does is partake in local beverages at every chance instead of leading his domain. How damn superficial. He even makes trips to other lands too. Humph. Just what was the point of giving that domain to him? At least with Shangwan clan's faint traces, even around he won't be of much use. Dan Shan grinned. I have to say I admire that old guy. So free and casual. Brother Feiyun, he'll be back in a few days. Want to ask him out for a drink? Maybe he got back some good stuff from where he's been. You go, I'm not in the mood. Shangwan Feiyun gave an impatient wave. Just how did you manage to do it anyway? Dan Shun raised an eyebrow. How else? When they asked me how to do it, I told them to play dumb. The Shangwan clan came here en masse and with 3 old coots strong enough to face a sword king. So while I wasn't around, they were bound to die if they pushed them. So they just let them go. Why you? Shangwan Feiyun's face twitched, turning to the other. Prime Minister, see that? He's lazy at his job. When the invincible sword comes along, I'll be sure to tell him. Glancing at him, Bailey Jingwei chuckled. I advise Sword King against pettiness, for I'm with Dragon, cleaving Sword King on this. What? Doing something pointless is utterly idiotic. Taking his teacup, Bailey Jingwei took a sip and drawled. Looking for the Shangwan clan was just a matter of appearances, never intent on following through. What's the point of handing them the lives of hundreds of people? We lost, pure and simple. There's no shame in it. Now I need to get ready for the Patriarch's admonishment. Report. A guard barged in and presented a jade slip. Prime Minister, Imperial Capital summons you. A summit. Bailey Jingwei smiled and took the jade slip. I've been away for 3 months, and His Majesty wants me back. Ha ha ha. I hardly get any vacation time like this. There are so many places I haven't seen yet. Sigh. No rest for the wicked. Just what got the Imperial Capital so on the edge, they need me to solve it. How pretentious can you be? The Empire can't go a single day without you. Shangwan Feiyun's mouth twitched and revealed a crooked smile. Prime Minister, politics sure keep you busy. Without Sir in the Empire, the sun loses its shine. Bailey Jingwei caught his jab, but chose to ignore it as he read the summons with an unspeakable calm. Though minutes later, he winced and cried, What? What happened? Shangwan Feiyun flinched. Bailey Jingwei said, Patriarch has come out and is calling court with the 9 sword kings and all officials. He wants to move in on northern lands. Invincible sword is out. Shangwan Fiyun and Danxing Shun cried out at the same time. The world will be in turmoil soon. What do you mean? Followed by prosperity. Haha. At Bailey Jingwei's long look, Shangwan Fiyun and Danxing Shun gave a dry laugh. Bailey Jingwei shook his head. I'll ignore it this time, but please watch your words, Sword Kings. You are the revered 9 sword kings of the central area, the cornerstones of the Sword Star Empire. If the empire is flourishing, so are you. If the Patriarch is powerful, so are you. Above all else, never treat Patriarch as your adversary. While I do understand the urge in practitioners to find worthy opponents to test their mettle, a house divided against itself cannot stand. Understood? The two nodded with how little impact he had on these strong sword kings. Bailey Jingwei did not press the issue, shouting instead, Guard, prepare to return to the imperial capital. I and the sword kings are going to greet the Patriarch. Yes, sir. A man bowed and rushed to work. Bailey Jingwei spoke again. Also, I had you look for a reliable person from Western lands. Did you find any? Prime Minister, I have. Then send him to Western lands and keep an ear out for anything of note. Bailey Jingwei sighed. Shangwan Feiyun asked, Prime Minister, why are you sending someone to Western lands? Can a single random guy slip through the land's defenses and arrays to spy? I don't need him to find me secrets, but a man's background. Oh, Gu Yifan. Bailey Jingwei's eyes flashed. Gu Yifan has been a worthy opponent. Even though he died, I still want to know everything about him to remember him by. As a manipulator, he had very few pieces in his hands. And who knew, maybe if he were but a little bit stronger, he'd have one, huh? Bailey Jingwei did not finish his thought. Who was to say who came on top when 2 equal opponents collided? Shangwan Feiyun spoke. Gu Yifan has been nothing but cunning. He came to act against my manner, so there's no way he would leave clues to his true identity. The greatest lie isn't based on just deception, but mixing lies and truths. Bailey Jingwei spoke. Gu Yifan is a clever guy, and I'm sure he didn't give me only lies, for it would have made him too suspicious. It's especially easy to be exposed when lying about local customs and products. While his name might be fake, his origin isn't. And with his smarts, there's no way he's unknown in the Western lands. So, I want to find who he was, just what kind of man could hold his own against me. Chapter 948, A Time of Need. Chapter 948, A Time of Need. Proofreader, Papatonks. In a world of white, with snow piling up incessantly, dyeing everything in its pure color, even a mountain of a man would find that he would have to trudge along through waist-deep snow to cross this place on this final month of the year. The Earth's vitality was subdued, with hardly any man venturing out in this harsh environment. Even a powerful cultivator would rather avoid such blizzards, not wanting to face the heavens in this desolate world of white. Though in these particular parts, 2 lone figures, 2 mere specks in this sea of white, appeared on and off among the snowfall crack. Under the crumbling snow, with every step, a thin man paused to readjust the young child on his back. Puffing out white with every breath before resuming his trek, he swayed under the biting winds. Only to press harder and regain his stalwart stance, the frail child looked at the bitter and icy world around him, then at the man's body, toiling to carry him. He parted his cracked lips, sobbing, Dad, I won't make it. You've been making me 11th grade pills to slow the bleeding and recover my blood, hurting your already wounded soul in the process. Then you still insisted on carrying me for months. Now you can't even fly. You can't keep doing this. Dad, let me go and move on. My time is up. I don't want to be a burden. Quiet. The man panted and raised his waned face, only his eyes shining with unflinching determination. He just gritted his teeth and pressed on. Young Sanzi, listen up. I am your dad, and I won't have this. No matter what, I'll get you back to the Western land alive, so those 2 can heal you. But the Western lands is so far away. How can we reach it in time? Dad, you can't go on doing this either. Zhuo Fan's eyes shook, moving on by sheer stubbornness. Even if I have to walk all the way, I'll still make it. We don't need to keep moving much longer. In half a month, we'll reach Gold Boss City. There's a teleportation array to every land there we can use. We'll be back to Western lands before you know it. Teleportation array. Gu Santong shook his head bitterly. Dad, you know as well as I do that the 5 lands teleportation array is split into official and commercial routes. The official one belongs to the Sword Star Empire, and we couldn't use it even when we arrived in the central area. This won't change now. And the commercial route belongs to the biggest merchant union in all the lands, ignoring any politics involved between them. To use their teleportation array, we need the consent of the leader in each land first. How are we going to pass their questioning when we're supposed to lay low? Zhuo Fan squinted, his brow shaking, but his eyes were firm. With me around, I'll definitely use it. Zhuo Fan took a heavy step, and as the sweat built up, he not once stopped from rushing Dad. You're the best. Feeling Zhuo Fan's kind and wide back, Gu Santong teared up, sobbing and slowly falling silent from feeling so weak. Blood trickled down his hand and onto the pure white snow, taking with it just a bit more of his vitality, leaving him defenseless against the elements. With the coldness seeping and unaware of young Sanzi's situation and oblivious to his last words, Zhuo Fan's mind was set in one direction, to push on, eyes flashing. Zhuo Fan took step after step, trudging forward slowly and leaving deep marks behind. 4 hours of toil brought Zhuo Fan to gasping, but nothing deterred him from walking. Only in the 6th hour, Zhuo Fan's foot began to slip, barely able to raise it for another step. Even relying on his weight to push away the snow no longer helped as it did in the 10th hour. Zhuo Fan was at a turning point, fully spent. His mind was willing, but the body hardly made any progress, numb and cold. His spirit had been so tense and focused all this time that it finally gave in, rendering him unconscious. Gu Santong had fallen asleep a long time ago, his tender face growing hard as coldness sapped his warmth, and the slow dripping of blood from his arm seemed to announce the end was nigh. The howling wind never ceased. The biting snow never stopped blocking the two's hard journey, soon burying them in white. It did not take long before any sign of their passing was gone, and the same went for them, erased by nature's cold embrace. The world was a cruel place, swallowing every being alike. All of us were nothing but visitors on this plane, bound to return in its arms. Rumble. A carriage with huge wheels was pulled by 3 20-meter-tall spiritual beasts, actually stomping through the thick snow with relative ease. These were 3rd-level spiritual beasts. Having no trouble galloping through this harsh weather. Inside the carriage were thin curtains along with the fragrance from an incense burner lingering about, hiding the pretty figure inside, unmarred by the bleak desolation outside. Halt. As the carriage stormed through the snow, a loud voice came from within the carriage. The 3 spiritual beasts stopped on the spot. Young miss, what is it? A young voice asked her. Is there blood outside? Blood. The curtain was lifted to reveal a charming face of a 17-year-old girl. Her eyebrows were sharp, focused as she looked around. Are you perhaps mistaken, young miss? There isn't any. The first voice spoke again. Go outside and check if they've been buried under the snow. They may be alive. Don't on me. Do what I say. I've been a healer for so long the scent of blood is easily recognized. But with such heavy snowfall, they must be under it. Sure, go already. The voice was sweet, but carried with it an irreproachable tone. Shrugging, the girl jumped down and searched while complaining. I'm going, damn. What young miss you are. What was that? Nothing at all. I found someone. As she pushed away the snow, Bayer suddenly cried out, plunging her thin arms into the snow and pulling 2 people out. Seeing the blood on the ground, Jur shouted, Young miss, you have such a sharp nose. There were 2 people buried in snow. The older one seems frozen while the younger one is bleeding, close to dying, bleeding in such bitter cold. The rushed voice from within said, Jur, get them inside, hurry. The little one must be gravely wounded. I have to heal him. Right away. Jouer was about to act, but then paused. But young miss, they're male. It's not right to have them in your magnificent carriage. No man has yet to step foot in it. It's fine if it's the child, but there's no time to mind the rules. Lives are at stake. The tone coming from inside went colder, bobbed her head, and threw the two inside. She jumped in herself, and the carriage resumed its mad dash. All that remained was a stain of scarlet in a world of white, slowly fading beneath the endless snow. Chapter 949. Immortal Healer Morong Shui. Chapter 949. Immortal Healer Morong Shui. Proofreader, Papatonks. Jouer threw the frozen father and son into the warm carriage, before a thin curtain. Young miss, here they are. Only the child's blood is dripping on the tapestry. What a shame. Nothing is more precious than life. The tapestry can just be cleaned later. A scarlet thread slipped from behind the curtain and grabbed Zhua's wrist and sent Yuan Qi through. A juror grumbled. Why would you care? You're not the one washing it. Jouer, is that another complaint I hear? No, nothing. Young miss is so magnanimous and kind. I could only work myself to the bone for young miss. Jouer proclaimed her undying devotion on the spot. The figure behind the curtain giggled. Stop being so sour, girl, and try to be more serious. He only has some heavy wounds, overstraining himself and his Yuan Qi. Give him Yuan Qi pills and let him rest. He'll then wake up. Yes, young miss. Zhua Fan helped Zhua Fan in swallowing an azure pill, but then said, he's in the radiant stage yet overwork himself? He's no beginner cultivator that can't control his strength. It's not always about control, but giving one's every drop. It's out of their control. The child must be why he's been out in the snow. Whoosh! The scarlet thread came out from behind the curtain once more, going for young Sanzi's pale wrist. This time her voice was laced with shock at the discovery. This child is strange. There are two energies inside, clashing constantly, and not letting his right hand stop bleeding. I have to stop the bleeding quickly before it's too late. Jouer, a clotting pill. Yes, young miss. Jouer sensed young miss' urgency and restrained her playful nature as she fed Gu Santong. Without question, the pill turned into a red stream that flowed through his body into his wound. It never reached it, clashed into something inside, and was forced to dissipate outside. The bleeding did not stop, flowing harder now due to the violent reaction of the pill. The scarlet thread on young Sanzi's wrist shook, sending a ripple behind the curtain. The young miss cried out. Since a 5th grade hemostatic pill doesn't work, then use the 7th grade hematoma pill. The child won't stop bleeding as long as those energies aren't settled. Yes, young miss. Jouer had never seen her young miss so distraught and fed young Sanzi the pill. The result was the same, even with the hematoma pill. The force was too strong for the pill to harden. Forced out without any effect, the consequence was even dire in this pill's case, causing Gu Santong to bleed even harder. All the effort Zhua Fan spent these months, the toil he went through to make the pills and slow down young Sanzi's bleeding, were all thrown away here, and now the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Zhua Fan would surely scream himself hoarse at this idiotic pair. Don't do anything if you don't understand it. You're killing child. The two girls were blissfully unaware of the child's severe condition. Watching things get even worse, the girl and the young miss started to panic. The young miss started demanding frantically, and the girl fed many pills to young Sanzi. All ended the same, with young Sanzi's blood flowing in torrent now, and dying. The tapestry, Scarlet Juror, was losing it. Young miss, what do we do? We're only making it worse. What's going on with his wound? Nothing works. The young miss was grave, but then she exclaimed, did divine sword harm the child? That can't be it. Even those wounds aren't as grave, slowly healing in the end. Just why is he showing no improvement? Young miss, it doesn't matter why. The older one might wake up any time now, and how will I explain how his son just died? Though there's nothing scary about a radiant stage. Jouer spoke with a sorrowful smile. It'll affect young Mrs. Eminent reputation. We should have just left them there. After a pregnant pause, the young miss spoke. Saving a life is better than any fancy honor. Since I have seen them, I can never turn a blind eye. Jouer, use the North Sea gel on the child. What? Jouer gasped. No, no, no. that's too valuable to be wasted on simple flesh wounds. We paid too high a price and worked too hard to get so little of it from the northern lands. It's meant for clan heads' use for emergencies. You can't just use it on a stranger. It's too much of a waste. The young miss was pondering this as well, but soon her firm voice came. I, immortal healer Murong Shui, have not once have anyone die on me, and certainly no child. No matter how precious the gel is, it can be earned again, while the child only has one life. And with Big Brother strength, it's hard to say when he'll actually need it. But won't it be wasted if it ends up the same as the pills? It's never a waste to use spiritual herbs to save one's life. Murong Shui was very detached from the material as she spoke. What are you waiting for? Are you the young miss here? Or me? Jue hesitated, totally against the idea, but young Miss Tone demanded obedience, and she had no choice but to suck up her grumbling and take out a gourd. She let a transparent liquid drip out, releasing a sweet odor as it covered Gu Santong's wounded arm by miracle. Every place the liquid touched, the blood stopped leaking. Soon, the liquid covered the entire wound and hardened. Keeping the blood inside, the foreign energy inside the arm struggled to fight this interference, only to be crushed without remorse by a sudden silvery light. The liquid had a faint silver glow as it seeped deeper into young Sanzi's body, vanishing completely. Behind it was left young Sanzi's pristine arm, unmarred by any scar or wound or cheered. Young miss, it worked. The child saved. The North Sea gel is a world wonder, a wonder drug for healing. The young miss relaxed a breath. The joy was short as her recalled the loss of most of the gel and spoke sadly. 10 million sacred spirit stones down the drain. Clan head is bound to flip at the news. Ha ha ha. My brother's refined and won't be angry knowing we saved a life. I hope so. Ugh, 10 million. Sniff. Jur was still in pain over such bitter losses. She glanced over to the unconscious Zhuofan. Hey, you owe us 10 million sacred spirit stones. Don't you ever forget it. A chuckle came from beyond the curtain. How can a radiant stage have such wealth? Kindness isn't done for a reward. When he wakes up, we'll send the father and son off. Humph, they got it too good. Zhuo'er pouted. What kind of fortune did they have to stumble upon the young miss in their hour of most desperate need? Not just saving them, but for free too. It's better to fleece them of everything once they wake up. We can't have them think money falls out of the sky at every turn. Murong Shui smiled. They were oblivious to the fact they had lent a helping hand to a demon archon, one whose wealth belied his slovenly appearance. He had so much on him that he could repay that North Sea gel many times over, with room to spare. Chapter 950, Filthy Rich. Chapter 950, Filthy Rich. Proofreader, Papatonks. Rumble. The huge carriage was rushing through the snowy wasteland, shaking now, and then Zhuofan, who lay inside on the carpet. Maybe one bump had been too hard to ignore. Maybe his Yuan Qi reserves were back. All that it mattered was that he roused, his dried lips parting to speak weakly. Young Sanzi, young Sanzi. Then he just bolted to his feet, shouting his son's name in panic. He was filled with fear and regret of what might have happened. He knew he just woke up from blacking out, but what about young Sanzi? With no one to stop his bleeding or take him to western lands, his life would slip away with every drop of blood. Zhuofan's brow shook and clenched his fists. The regret inside him threatened to consume him whole. How could he just black out and leave his wounded son uncared for while he rested? He was so consumed in his thoughts and feelings he failed to notice the missing cold and snow. God damn it. What's with that racket? You scare me to death. Another shout came that made him flinch. Only now he took in his surroundings, the ever-moving carriage. Across from him was a cute and lovely lady of 17. She was holding an adorable boy of 8, who was looking pale and recovering. Zhuofan eased a breath and scanned the place before asking the girl, Miss, did you save us? Why, you don't like it. Then give me your life back. Shooting him a look, the girl scoffed. Zhuofan grumbled at the most rude reply. Guess he got used to always having the final say, always having the last word. Finally being on the receiving end had him stuck and irate. The only reason she wasn't a bloody smear on the carriage's walls was for saving them. Thanks to the true self-art, my violent tendencies have been curbed a lot over the past 2 years. You should be lucky you met me only now, humph. Joie Fan forced down his anger, strained a smile, and cupped his hands. I first want to thank you, miss, for all you've done. And may I ask what got you in such a bad mood? Do I owe you a fortune? Ha ha ha. What do you think? Joie Fan was joking, but hit the last right where it hurt and made her more depressed and annoyed startled. Joie Fan was even more baffled. I've only just met her, so how could I owe her? By her extreme reaction, I must have really done something at some point. Joie Fan was perplexed, but the girl just rolled her eyes at him in despair. 10 million. Oh, 10 million. The two were stuck in a complete tangent from another, with neither getting the other's intentions. It was then Murong Shue's soft voice came from beyond the curtain. Act like a lady and not so stuck up. It's been 5 days, and you still aren't over it? Holy, someone else is in here. Joie Fan jumped, now noticing the fourth presence. The sudden rousing and all that happened made him forget to scan the area from her voice. He could tell that she was the boss lady, and this girl only the servant. Humph, what a pretentious maid. Joie Fan lost his early amiable air, looking coldly at her. I see. It's your young miss that saved the two of us, not you. Why the sour look then? You didn't do anything anyway, only using her name. Joie Fan saluted the curtain with all respect. Thank you, young miss, for saving the two of us in our time of need. You. Joie was fuming mad and whined to Murong Shue. Young miss, see who you worked so hard to save. Joie, it's you who started it. Don't blame others for your problems. Take it as a lesson and try not to do it again. Murong Shue scolded her maid and spoke coldly to Joie Fan. Sir's words weren't proper either. As all life is equal, I do not need any reward for saving you. I only wish for you to be upright and do no evil, making my efforts worth it. Please don't make me regret saving a demon. Ugh. Joie Fan let out a dry laugh. I only just put the maid in her place, and she's calling me a demon. Then again, I'm certainly no saint, ha. Joie glared at him and turned the lecture on him. Hear that? Young miss wants you to be nice later on, or we can take back your life any time we want to. Being nice is all up to me. You have saved me, but don't need to worry about it. As for taking back the life you just saved, only I decide how I go down. Joie Fan sneered with a glint in his eyes. I see Guyi Fun never owed anyone any favors. I'll make sure to return this grand gesture at the first chance. So thank you for all the trouble these days, but now it's time to leave. May we meet again. Joie Fan grabbed Gu Santong's hand and stunned the two with his actions. Her was stumped by the nerve of this guy, having just been saved from certain death. Then he started being all cocky-like, as if it was these two's endless glory for saving him. Murong Shue was stunned and sighed. Not nice at all. Joie Fan exclaimed, having noticed the smooth arm of Gu Santong, with not even a scar on it to show his past suffering. What's going on? Young Sanzi. Joie found the leverage to snap back. Young miss, in her infinite mercy, had brought this poor child back. He is unconscious but stable. What a pity. The young one is such an innocent creature, while the elder one is so vile. Young miss saved the wrong person. Thank you. Joie Fan forewent his rude attitude and thanked. I don't matter, but you've done me a great favor for saving my son. Any request you may have, I will fulfill it. No questions asked. Murong Shue shook and nodded. Sir is quite peculiar, but fond of his son. This proves your heart still has some good in it. My only reward is for you to come back on the straight and narrow. A good. Joie Fan's face twitched. I thought you were joking. I've been evil all my life. I have no clue what good is. How does it even work? Young miss, he's getting off too easy. Just look how cocky he was. It'd be a shame not to ask for anything. Luckily, stepped in to clarify it all, holding out her hand. Since you want to pay, then pay your fees. Joie Fan chuckled and nodded, as it is right. How much? Just a smidgen, 10 million sacred stones. Juror sported a vile grin. Fan flinched. Why so expensive? What kind of pills did you use? Not like he couldn't pay, but that he was stunned. Even without the fees as an excuse, he'd still give 10 million, as it was only right those dead rocks meant nothing when young Sansi's life was concerned. Her and misunderstood completely, of course, thinking so many zeros scared him and laughed. You can't, can you? You penniless? I bet you don't even know what sacred stones look like. Then just give me all you have, even though it's hardly anything of worth. Je, Morong Shwed, admonished. Fan spoke. Monsieur, I can give you that much, but I'm curious what kind of drug you use that is so valuable. If it's not the drug, then I can still pay it as favor for saving us. You think we're lying? Jouet huffed, taking out a gourd and showing it to him. You know what's inside? Miracle drug, North Sea gel. If not, listen well. It's a valuable recovery medicine even in northern lands. We had to spend 10 million sacred stones to get this little and used almost all on your son. Isn't it normal for you to pay at least that much? Sniffing the gourd, Fan frowned. North Sea gel. There's no mention of it in the 9 Serenity's secret records. Is it from the mortal domain? But to save young Sansi, it has to be miraculous. He smiled at Jur. Miss, since you only have a little left, give it to me for my son, and I'll give you 20 million to make up for it. Haha, 20 million? I bet you don't have spirit stones as much. That's not the issue here. Will you accept? Fan asked her, raised her head, not believing a word. Fine then. Only a fool won't take advantage of such a damn deal. Give me your ring. Fan's eyes shone and chuckled. Jouer did so, and Fan's ring touched her. Fan then took the gourd and his son and was off, laughing. Monsieur, a deal's a deal, bye. Wait, I still haven't checked. Cried out. Morong Shwed gasped. What is it? Young miss, 20 million sacred stones are inside the ring. The guy is actually loaded. Jouer was bug-eyed, struck dumb by the glittering rocks in her ring. Chapter 9:51 Greatest Merchant Union. Chapter 9:51 Greatest Merchant Union. Proofreader, Papatonks. Gold Boss City, a name that implied wealth and riches, all gather in one place. There was some truth to the saying, money makes the world go round. Most of the central area was under the imperial family and the officials' control, with one exception. Gold Boss City, the largest merchant union in the lands, Serene Shores Trading, held its main office in this very city, where even the imperial family wouldn't get involved, couldn't they really? Of course, it couldn't be farther than the truth. This empire held so much power that it shocked the other 4 lands, let alone a tiny trading company. It didn't matter how many ties you had across the world or how much wealth, since with great power came greater wealth. Just how commoners didn't fight with nobles, neither did they fight with high officials as to why a trading company controlled a city was all due to the empire's permission. Even with the Swordstar Empire standing against the 4 other areas, it still relied on trade with them to exchange resources and local products with each other. In order to facilitate these trades, a neutral party was needed. The Serene Shores Trading, in this case, the Empire gave it supreme power in linking the 5 lands, so it set up relations between all of them and played a pivotal role in any land millennia later. Through its subdued lust for power, never stepping into any land's power struggle, it had earned the trust of every faction in the lands, opening their doors for its business. It led to a boom in revenue, growing larger and larger, becoming the main trade hub between the lands. These last few hundred years in particular showed great expansion. It was all due to Bailey Jingwei coming to governance. With his brilliant mind, he urged the trading with the rest of the lands to get bigger and faster, giving the Serene Shores Trading more power by building their own teleportation array within the lands to facilitate this. Only the bold would take such a risk. The minute the 5 lands teleportation array fell in another's hands, they would lose control and could invade the Empire's heart from thousands of miles away. It also worked as a perfect retreat too, giving them an easy way to withdraw without losses. That was why out of the central area, no other land had a teleportation array in the hands of another, even a trader. Only the higher-ups of every land could activate a teleportation array to another land. So order could be maintained. This showed just how bold Bailey Jingwei was in giving so much power to a trading union. It wasn't done out of impulsiveness either, backed up by real power. The Sword Star Empire didn't fear other land spies, nor any kind of trouble they might stir here. The central area had the invincible sword, and only his defeat would crumble the central area, which was impossible since he was way stronger than anyone else. You couldn't kill him even with human wave tactics. Adding to that, the 9 sword kings stationed in their domain, and the central area became a connected hell. Even the best clan in Eastern lands was feeling tense spending even one more day in this place. They were so close to getting shredded too because of such indomitable backing. Bailey Jingwei had an even easier time with politics, displaying his talent without fear or repercussions, be that as it may. The commercial teleportation array had its restriction. First, one had to wear the Serene Shores Trading's badge, and the other was to gain Gold Boss City's nominal lord's approval, Bailey Jingyu, a member of the imperial family. Lest the enemy took action while they were oblivious and taking this place for themselves, as in any system, leaks always sprouted, even with this double safety net. Maybe the people were too confident in their empire, or they just didn't care how the commercial line was used and trusting Serene Shores Trading completely, or maybe their contempt of the other lands had grown unchecked. Regardless of the reason, the second safety net, Bailey Jingyu, was so insipid and useless he barely made for a good figurehead, always indulging himself, and not to mention he had a lousy cultivation. With the central area teeming with talent, the only reason the 3-century-old Radiant Stage Bag of Bones got this job was thanks to being part of the imperial family. I.e., he has the patriarch watching his back. It thus led to the Serene Shores Trading holding the real power in the Gold Boss City. Zhuofan did his homework on this city and was now standing before the grand and ostentatious gates with a weary Gu Santong on his back. Gu Santong might have had his wound healed, and some time to replenish his blood would have got him back on his feet. It just didn't happen. He was still very weak, and his energy just wouldn't recover. The countless pills Zhuofan gave him showed no effect either. It was like anything the child ate would be washed away without any result. Zhuofan did not understand this condition, nor know how to fix it. So he stuck to the old plan, in taking him back to the 2 monsters in Western lands. They were the same type as Qilin, having been alive since antiquity, and should know what this ailment was. To make this trip as smooth as possible, Zhuofan chose to use this 5 lands teleportation array and get young Sanzi home. At the very least, young Sanzi's life wasn't at risk on the bustling street filled with riders and carriages. A lone father blended with the crowd, looking all over the place as he went. Zhuofan's eyes shone at some point and grinned as he fixed his gaze on a lofty courtyard. Before it were 2 soul harmony experts standing guard, totally devoted to their duties like stone-cold machines. Above them was a most dazzling, flamboyant, and utter money-wasting sign he saw, with Serene Shores Trading written in big fancy golden letters. To use the commercial line, one first must get this clan's approval. Haha. Zhuofan stepped lively for the entrance, but the guards barred his path. Zhuofan felt it awfully familiar. Didn't the same happen back at the Veiled Dragon Pavilion? Haha. Guess lapdogs can be found everywhere. The guards, however, were off script this time around, not having the least bit of scorn, even bowing. Sir, what might have brought you here? Business? What kind? Why would I tell you? I want to see your manager. Zhuofan demanded. These watchdogs want to use their master to intimidate me. The guard did not mind it one bit. Ha ha ha. Sir, we're not questioning you. We're here to receive guests. But as there are all kinds of people, business can be big or small. We largely deal in big deals, which makes every visitor an important customer. I advise that Sir visits our shops for small buys, only half a mile down the street. We welcome any and all cooperation. Thank you. Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. The best merchant union, sure, is something else. They even trained their guards to be nice. No wonder they exploded in size. He found no reason to make the situation worse, so he revealed a bottle with glittering rocks. Tell me, is this deal big or small? Sacred stones. The two gave Zhuofan a long look and advised. Sacred stones are under tight control throughout the lands. Not just anyone can have them. This were you, sir? Joafan looked elsewhere and scoffed. The two winced, knowing they made a serious blunder. Forgive me, sir. It was a slip of the tongue. Trust is crucial in any business. I heard when Serene Shores Trading makes a deal, it never asks the other party's history, thus dealing with every aspect of society. But your actions today, if the head knew of it. Forgive us, please. I forgot myself, sir. The guard bowed, deeply in fear. Their training comprised of being robotic, to give short replies and not eavesdrop. Most importantly, to treat guests with utmost humility and respect. They could never go after anyone unless ordered to, but because of shock, all the wrong words came out. Looking into the guest, it was plain to see that Joafan, with a child on his back, looked like a house husband, not someone important enough to have sacred stones. The sacred stones were so important in the central area as well that only the really important figures had them, and they never came through here. That was why it baffled the two guards to no end. He can't be from the imperial family, can he? One word to the manager, and we'll go bye-bye. What rotten luck. What was I thinking, blabbering so much to such a mystery guest? The two looked nervous and grimaced on either side of Joafan. He had no intention to whip a guard dog, not when he was so nice, but he had to show off his style, to intimidate and swing the negotiations in his favor. These were guidelines Joafan always adhered to when doing high-profile negotiations. Embark came out of nowhere. Who's making a ruckus at the Serene Shores trading door? Chapter 952, Soul Harmony's Power. Chapter 952, Soul Harmony's Power. Proofreader, Papatonks. Second young master. With light steps, a youth in lavish clothes came along, which made the guards bow. At once Joafan chuckled to himself. They say the eldest young master of the Serene Shores Trading is able and efficient, having the clan head's favor, while the second young master is a hothead, making trouble and pissing off his elders. It can't be you, can it? Ha ha! Are you done spouting crap? Looking angry, the youth's face sank and released the power of a third-layer soul harmony stage cultivation as he spat. I don't care what mutt you are, barking in my company, but to insult me? You're dead. Bam. He never got the chance, as two stalwart men shielded Joafan from any harm. The young master flipped out, seeing the guards go against him. What do you think you're doing? I'm doing this for you. Teaching this punk some manners, yet you defy me? Do you want to die too? Second young master. The master commanded us to always keep the peace and never raise a hand on our guests, especially to a noble guest such as he, a possible imperial family member. We can't ever. The guards grimaced and bowed. The guy exploded in rage and cut them off. Who cares? That's only on the surface when he's utterly useless at everything else. Stop exaggerating. Isn't bloodline enough? Joafan gave a taunting smirk. Second young master's reputation precedes you. You mean you don't know that in this world, strength is second while heritage is first? Just how many people can actually reach the peak of their skills? The majority is in fact walking around with the noses up and puffed up chest thanks to riding someone's coattails. And you, second young master, are no different. You've been brought up as well, and quite good in fact. The only reason these two guards show you any kind of respect and not send you to your maker is because you're the second young master of the Serene Shores Trading. Joafan finished by looking elsewhere, further incensing the enraged second young master till he was beat red. The guards sighed, their hearts bleeding from seeing the second young master ready to pop, and the indifferent Joafan of his own handiwork behind them. This guest has a sharp mouth as well. Taking deep breaths, the second young master glared at the two and declared, "So you dogs want to stop me, right? You asked for it." Second young master charged for the two, unleashing his great power on them. The guards cried out, "Second young master, please don't force our hand." "Oh, I will. Or you can say goodbye to that imperial family guy. That's what you get for blocking me." Second young master was out for blood. The two guards felt put on the spot, but soon came to a decision and met him head on. "Second young master, stop making a scene. Harming anyone from the imperial family will lead to problems for the company. We have no choice but to stop you." Clang. The guards took hard stances and punched with great power towards the second young master, tough and sharp like swords. Such a state could only be achieved with soul harmony. Zhuo Fan nodded inside like a judge, acting like a bystander to the scene he caused. Not bad sword souls. These two, a shame they're against. Rumble. The mighty sword arts were unleashed as the two punches passed through the second young master's belly, astounding them. Second young master, then you dodge. The second young master stood in place with an icy gaze. Two puny sword souls think to harm me? Humph! Your sword training is nowhere near enough to even pluck a hair from me. Train harder next time. Tit. The guard were panicking and about to retreat when they found their hands stuck in place. The second young master smirked. I hardly ever fight with soul harmony stage experts, so you don't know. I have a once-in-millennium elemental soul, making me nigh untouchable, phantasmal, the instant my body turns to ice. You can use your sword soul to harm me if you harden them enough, but you're just too weak compared to me. Haha, the moment I form my soul, I surpass most people around. My superiority in the ethereal stage only became more pronounced in the soul harmony stage. You only lost due to soul levels. Better work harder next time. Train and make up for your weakness. A crackling sound could be heard, and the two guards' hands iced over, the cold spreading over their entire body and freezing them in place. The second young master dealt with them in a flash, slipping backward and letting their hands come out while his body returned to normal. Did the two guards attack at random? Not many soul harmony stage people knew what exactly happened, except for Zhuo Fan. The soul harmony combined one soul and flesh, but it wasn't as simple as addition compared to ethereal stage. The soul harmony stage takes the cultivators to a new and improved level. To a flawless state, there were three kinds of souls. Beast souls and tool souls were the lowest rung, while the elemental souls were formed through condensing an element and becoming intangible. Thus they were better. As for domain souls, they encompassed everything. The highest form, where one's rules were supreme, this led to variation in strength in the ethereal stage, despite equal cultivation, yet different souls. And once one reached the soul harmony stage, this gap only broadened. A soul harmony of a beast or tool soul would exhibit great power, the savagery of a beast or the hardness of a tool. They were so destructive it could cause real damage even in the ethereal stage, though there were always exceptions, such as monsters like Zhuo Fan, with his double soul empowered domain that could crush even a soul harmony stage cultivator. As to why they ranked so low in the soul harmony stage, that was because when doing soul harmony with an elemental soul, the body combines with it and turns the user phantasmal. As long as the opponent's soul was weaker than yours, he could never touch you. The same happened to those two poor guards. They were on a different level despite their okay-ish cultivation. This was where a soul type made all the difference. As for a soul harmony domain, that was turning yourself into an area and assuming complete control. Even more outrageous, though, enough Yuan Qi, like in Dan Xingxin's case, to crack the earth and rend space. Soul type no longer mattered. While soul type was an advantage, it was not a blowout. One's true strength was what made the real difference, though, for average people. Soul types meant different power levels. Ignoring the stiff and frozen guards, the second young master passed them by and walked before Zhuo Fan. No killing. Zhuo Fan smirked, pointing at the popsicles. They just tried to attack you. I have to say, you're quite forgiving for an arrogant master when teaching your dogs. The second young master's eyes twitched in rage. They attacked me to save your life. Is that how you return their favor? By having me kill them? Return what? I have nothing to give them. Zhuo Fan had a crooked grin. I came to do business, and I'm your guest. Protecting me is in their job description. Besides, they most likely did it for the company's name to go untouched for longer. Speaking of, they didn't do it for me, but because the second young master started it, no? Anywho, shouldn't dogs that bite back, regardless of reasons, be put down? Ha ha ha. The fury in the second young master reached a boil as he shook all over and punched at Zhuo Fan. Shut up. Zhuo Fan grinned as the punch stopped an inch from his face. Scared that I'm from the imperial family? Zhuo Fan cocked an infuriating eyebrow. This shows you're not all muscle. Up there, and no one to stop. Now be good and kowtow. Shit. The second young master snapped. Damn cocky bastard, I don't care who you are, but today you die. Just put the kid down. I don't strike children. Zhuofan glanced behind at young Sanzi and smiled. I see. Zhuofan nodded and stepped in the second young master's personal space, catching him off guard. Bam. A loud explosion tore at the peaceful sky, and the second young master felt pain in his gut, making him keel over and spit blood. He looked down in utter shock at the scarlet punch buried in his stomach. How? I have an elemental soul harmony. How'd he touch me? No soul harmony expert. Blood dripped from his incredulous face. His legs failed him and fell down with hazy eyes. Elemental soul harmony isn't invincible, and a man carrying a child isn't always weak. Grinning, Zhuofan turned around to walk inside, leaving his laughter behind. Second young master, you're amusing. I'll remember you. Maybe we'll get to work together someday. Ha! Wait, who are you? Second young master wanted to shout, but the pain robbed him of his voice, his sight, and his consciousness. A sacred beast was born with soul harmony. Then he also had the heaven dragon soul with godlike power. Zhuofan was not in the soul harmony stage, but with the heaven dragon soul and Qilin arm, he made up for it. Nothing could stop him, not elemental soul harmony, and neither domain soul harmony. Chapter 953. All business is good business. Chapter 953. All business is good business. Proofreader, Papatonks. Now past that tiny inconvenience, Zhuofan no longer gave the two icicles and the unconscious second young master any thought. Walking into the main hall of the building, the first step into the reception hall was met with an explosion of wealth, blinding the eyes from the gaudy and glittering gems and stained glass decorating it. The columns supporting the high ceiling were even more outrageous, some made from the rarest ores and gems handpicked from the South Mountains, while others came in the form of rare beasts from the North Sea, like the flood dragon. The raw and thick vibe of wealth coming off this hall slammed into Zhuofan. As for the strange, average guy waltzing in, just having entered this place proved he meant business. An aged man stepped closer to ask with a deep bow, Sir, with what may we help you today? Let's talk business. Sensing he had a soul harmony stage cultivation, yet showing no reaction to a radiant stage cultivator like himself, Zhuofan had to reassess the Serene Shores trading. Just how ingrained business was to them. The old man smiled. Right this way, sir. We have strict confidentiality rules here, and all talks are done in private rooms. Once we arrive at Sir's room, a specialized receptionist will attend to you. Of course, as I'm your current receptionist, the content of our talks and their result shall only be kept between us two and my immediate superior. This is the reputation our company prides itself with. So please, rest assured, sir. Zhuofan nodded. Serene Shores, trading values secrecy so much, going as far as minimizing the flow of information to prevent a leak while taking its reputation as a guarantee. This is how they manage to deal with both good and bad people, gaining the trust of all the lands. Its policy vows the company as being completely safe in business, taking no side and spying on no one. Its neutrality was thus assured, with no parties being offended, while neither receiving any special treatment either. But this business plan shows its genius by allowing them to get in touch with all factions. It is the law of nature for everyone to have something needing taken care of hidden from the eyes of all. Serene Shores Trading's neutrality allowed it to swim freely among these dealings, with no repercussions. Once into a fine and classy room, Zhuofan got into a sculpted lavish chair. One leg over the other, the old man was calmly closing the door, then made a sign to seal sounds in this room by erecting a barrier. Now the old man turned to Zhuofan and smiled. Sir, we can now begin. They're right about Serene Shores Trading, serving any customer with utmost attention to detail. You're too kind, sir. This is our job. Ha ha ha. While your people skills are pristine, I can't help but wonder if your power is just as great, able to ease my worries. A rare praise came from Zhuofan, one followed by a taunting eyebrow, and switch of topics. The old man smiled. Sir, it's plain to see to all the 5 lands just how strong we are. Regardless of the request and its outcome, we are confident enough we can do it. If by some absurdity we can't, then no one else in the world can. Ha ha ha. The old man sounded humble, but anyone could sense the pride and confidence in his tone, in the Serene Shores Trading's power. Ha ha. I can only hope. Juefan didn't pursue it and went to business. I would like to use the company's 5-land teleportation array, your commercial line. Will this be acceptable? What? The old man winced, his strolling air changed to one of shock. You want to use our commercial line? I can't. No. That's not the issue here. But the old man was put on the spot. It's not just our company that controls it, but also the city lord. We can't use it as we wish. I'm afraid I can't complete your request. Juefan reckoned his true age to be close to 100. The old man resealed the room and made the introductions to Juefan. Sir, here is our company's eldest young master, Wu Ranz, and my immediate superior. It's best if you talk with eldest young master about your business. Hello, sir. I've been told you wish to use our commercial line. Wu Ranz bowed lightly. Despite being a successor like that second young master, he showed only courtesy, like the whole of Serene Shores Trading did with all their customers, even if some were weak Radiant Stage cultivators or still unaware just how big of a deal they were here. For Juefan squinted. So, he's the eldest young master. Word has it that he's sharp and able, the clan head's right-hand man. Looking at him now, he does follow the company's rules. That wasn't enough to remove all of his skepticism. However, finding something a bit off about him. Unable to clear his doubts at the time being, Juefan just nodded. Yes, that is why I'm here. I see, huh? Wu Ranz was blunt. Sir, while the commercial line is something Serene Shores Trading set up, it is under Gold Boss City Lord's control. You need both approvals to use it. Each instance requiring its use also needs to be submitted a day in advance, along with the items carried, quantity, destination, and so on. I'm sorry to say, but today's report has already been given. Using it for our own selfish needs will incur the Empire's wrath. I'm sorry, but this is something we cannot do. Juefan mocked, watching his fake business smile. So you're saying a company as huge as yours needs to make reports each time? Yes, this is a handicap, but no matter how big we are, we can't go against the Empire. Please forgive us. So, I just need the City Lord's approval, and I can use the commercial line, right? Of course. All that's required is the City Lord's approval, and with a big enough deal, making it worth using it, the commercial line will be available to you. As for what you wish to carry, be it contraband or even people, we'll do it regardless, with none catching wind of this. I stake my company's name on it. Quite a good aim too, huh? Juefan gave a smirk, and his eyes glinted while fuming inside before even coming to Gold Boss City. He knew Bailey Jingyu was useless, ignoring his duty most of the time. At best, he'd go to the company to get some crumbs. There was no way a company as big as theirs would let some moron control. They made sure ages ago to fill the fool's appetite. That was the extent of their collaboration. Name dropping in this case was only used to jack up the price. To rip him off, I bet that even if I do go to him for approval, you're going to work behind my back, so he'll make it harder on me, then split the profits later. Juefan had seen this tactic done plenty of times before. Sure, the Serene Shores Trading cared not who came knocking their door, since they made sure to fleece them. Business and treachery go hand in hand. The bigger the deal, the shrewder the tactic. The dignified presentation proved it. Eldest young master sure is wise and able. Juefan's eyes flashed in thought. Wu Ranz wore the same flat smile, not betraying any thoughts he might have about his praise. Thank you. Then let's talk business. I wonder if your company can smooth it over with the city lord, with a big enough business that is. Ha ha ha. That counts as a second deal. Wu Ranz beamed. Juefan chuckled. Yes, eldest young master is a shrewd businessman. Ha ha. It's the company's rule, sir. Nothing more. We can't do business without capital, and the city lord needs to be on the take as well. Wu Ran's gaze was fixed on Juefan. But sir, what is the deal anyway? A large one, the biggest one your company had in millennia. Zhuo Fan gave a crooked smile. Chapter 954, a bit low. Chapter 954, a bit low. Proofreader, Papatonks. Wu Ran's lit up. Huge deal? Could you tell us too about it, sir? Ah, you're awfully slow for someone praised to be sharp, eldest young master. How else are we supposed to trade if I don't tell you about it? Eldest young master, aren't you being redundant? Zhuo Fan toyed. Wu Ran's nodded with a smile. Indeed, sir is right, and I've been rude. Before we get to it, I have something for you. Zhuo Fan took out a bright crystal and a vial from his ring. Wu Ran started at the sight of them and asked, Sacred stones, an 11th grade pill? Sir, is this the deal you spoke of? While they're both uncommon, there's plenty of them between men of true worth. Our company has traded in fairly large amounts of them as well. I fear that this deal... Eldest young master, you're being slow again. I just said that I have something to show you before the real deal. Zhuo Fan smirked. Wu Ran's cheeks reddened, not liking being prodded again and again for over minor things. His flat business smile slipped for a second as well. Then, sir, identity. Zhuo Fan chuckled and shook his head. The company does not check its customers out of consideration, but I'm willing to go the extra mile for a more solid cooperation. I am 11th grade alchemist. This is one of my pills, and these sacred stones are something I got from selling some of them. I am among those men in power and have the right to deal big. Ugh. Wu Ran's and the old man chuckled, then bowed. Sir, revealing your identity isn't necessary. You're a valued customer the moment you stepped into our company. We sincerely... Oh, don't say that. Zhuo Fan chuckled. All that enter are noble guests because your guards filter them at the door. Any that passes them are bound to be important, so there's no need for screening. That, however, was not how I got here, and I need to facilitate our big deal through increasing our mutual trust. Wait, you didn't go through. Wu Ran's was stunned and baffled. Then how did you get here? There's 2 soul harmony experts outside. Zhuo Fan read his doubts on his face. I fought my way in, knocking them out. Wu Ran's flinched. That soul harmony stage, and 2 cultivators at that. How? Also, your second young master passed by, so I knocked him out too. He should be having a nap at the door. Zhuo Fan threw the last part in. Yes, I beat your baby brother. What are you going to do about it? Zhuo Fan waited for the stiff-faced Wu Ran's to react. The guy let out a long breath and bowed. Forgive me, sir. The guards must have been rude to you and deserved it. I'll be sure to look into it and deal with them. As for my brother, I ask that sir overlook his recklessness. May sir speak of the huge deal you mentioned? Your flaw is your humanity. Seeing the unfazed gaze of Wu Ran's, Zhuo Fan chuckled while respect was imposed to make dealings better. It has been so enforced that morals have been thrown away. I told them I beat the guards, and the eldest young master didn't care. As all men of ambition would rather lose to the enemy, and not because of having wretched clansmen. There was no harm in having some clan flunkies take the brunt, as long as a huge deal was coming their way, though. This would take a different aspect when his brother got involved. That he was too impersonal, Zhuo Fan was cold as well. Not impersonal, since ruthlessness was also a part of one's humanity. He might not like his little brother, but at the very least, it should have concerned him. As for those who cherish their brother, they'd be flipping out about now. There were many ways to keep a straight face, but none were perfect in the other extreme. Hearing your brother suffered, you might be overjoyed since you too were vying for the clan's power. Such was humanity, good and bad. Envious and passionate Zhuo Fan saw none of this in Wu Ran's. He only cared about his interest and nothing else. The worst part, he was only chasing profits and wealth out of instinct, going through life with a frozen heart. So this is Serene Shore's trading's wise and able. Haha, I'd rather not have such company. It's too hard to control. Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed, and he spoke. Eldest young master is so open about it. I was standing here afraid of facing you. I didn't even realize he was second young master before acting. I understand my brother the best. He must have started it and incited sir. Hope you'll forgive us. Wu Ran's continued. Can we now talk about the huge deal? Zhuo Fan nodded and revealed a gourd. Look at this. He opened it and Wu Ran's gasped. North Sea Gel? The North Sea Gel! The old man cried out. It's Northern Land's specialty, yet also a local rarity. Not even their faction's leaders have much of it. I heard only the sea demons of the North Sea are guarding it. It's so dangerous there that even a sword king can die. Sir, is this what you want to trade? We'll take everything you have. Money isn't a problem. The old man blurted out like a broken record, leaving the plodding Zhuo Fan to be taken aback. This thing's that valuable? So that's why the wench wanted 10 million sacred stones. Is this thing valuable? I heard that it can heal any wound in an instant, even one made by the 5 lands' divine weapons. When Invincible's sword ran amok in the northern lands, the other 3 lands joined to drive him back, but many have died. It's all due to this item that the strongest survived Sundering Sword's wounds. You have such a thing and don't know this? The old man gasped. Zhuo Fan grumbled a bit and said, I recently obtained it, and I'm not familiar yet. Then, tell me a number. 30 million sacred stones. The old man spoke first on the spot. Zhuo Fan was shocked inside. Does that mean the 20 million and the fact it was used on young Sanzi still isn't worth its value? Seeing him silent, Wu Ran's thought it was from hesitation and spoke. 50 million. 50. Zhuo Fan jumped in shock. From the sheer fact Wu Ran's, a man obsessed with profits, to call out such a number without a twitch showed it had to be way more valuable. Holy hell. What the hell is this to be so expensive? It's like sacred stones are just dull rocks to him compared to this. His silence was taken as dissatisfaction again, and Wu Ran sighed. I know 50 million is very low, that even a tiny bit of North Sea Gel is invaluable with all the lands fighting for it. But the most money we can access is 50 million. I actually struck gold with this. They saved my son, and I just gave them double the asking price to return the favor. But this was by no means calling it quits, not with its value. I simply robbed them of it. Sigh, I never owe anyone anything, and now I owe tons. I have to pay it all back. Zhuo Fan's face twitched and took the gourd back. Who said this is the item of trade? I was only asking. Zhuo Fan stashed it away. The two were dumbstruck, red eyes fixed on that ring, their hearts burning with greed and anger. Dude, are you toying with us? Talking about some huge deal, then you take that out. Here we are sincere about buying it, so why not make the trade? Are you mocking our addiction by saying that? Or are you saying you got something better than North Sea Gel? Not happening. To Zhuo Fan, that was just it. He had something so huge and outrageous that it could buy the whole company. Chapter 955, Demon Spirit Stone. Chapter 955, Demon Spirit Stone. Proofreader, Papatonks. Now don't get too excited. This right here is what I'm trading. Seeing the hunger in their eyes, as if he stole the juiciest morsel right from their mouth. Zhuo Fan gave a dry cough and revealed the main star of this deal. Some pitch-black rock. Wu Ran's weighed the odd rock in his hand, speaking in doubt. And what is this supposed to be? Never seen it before. It doesn't seem to have much use either. Our company never has things we can't use. Sir, I recommend you put the North Sea Gel back on the table. I know our capital is limited and lacking, but it will soon be amended. We'll sign an IOU as well if we have to. Our credibility has been carefully groomed for thousands of years. Zhuo Fan's face twitched and grinned inside. He must really want that North Sea Gel with a passion to turn from an eminent gentleman into a street peddler, foregoing his status and his leverage. Zhuo Fan, however, had no intention of handing over. He had some research in mind for it. Maybe it was exactly what young Sanzi needed to wake up. Eldest young master, I'm sure you know what saving the best for last means. First I took out an 11th grade pill, then the North Sea Gel, but neither of them are part of the deal. Are you perhaps thinking the third item is lesser than the two? Shaking his head, Zhuo Fan gave a mocking smile. The item I intend to trade is no less valuable than the North Sea Gel, Scout's honor. You talk a mean game, saying you actually have something better than the priceless North Sea Gel. Wu Ran's gasped, then gave the plain, black rock a second look. True. Everything he took out was better than the last. First was an 11th grade pill, the second was the North Sea Gel, and lastly this thing. Maybe this black rock is better than the North Sea gel, but we can't see it? Wu Ran's got the rock to eye level and focused on it, using all his concentration to find anything that might betray its supposedly amazing value, only to come up empty. What the hell is this thing? Wu Ran's wore a constant frown, finally turning a perplexed look to Zhuo Fan. Try using Yuan Qi, the same you use when cultivating. Zhuo Fan grinned and lightly instructed Wu Ran tried doing what he said and absorbed spiritual energy around the shock came in seconds. He was just giving it a casual try, yet the rock's seemingly infinite energy surged into his body moreover. Unlike spirit stones or even sacred stones, what he got from this was Yuan Qi that blended with his. It cleansed his meridians as the energy traveled on the way to his dantian, filling it with power in a mere blink. The black rock vanished, while his body was filled to the brim with Yuan Qi, so much so his meridians were aching. He was on the verge of advancing. Wu Ran's was dumbstruck in his seat, trying to blink away the fog. Any cultivator worth his salt knew the sacred stones and spirit stones were first emptied of spiritual energy, then had that energy turned into Yuan Qi to train. It was a time-consuming process, taking hours, days, and even years. This was where this black rock came in, cutting the time to zero by feeding the boy pure Yuan Qi. In case of a fight, this rock would make one's Yuan Qi reserves endless, giving one supreme advantage, while in terms of cultivation, it saved tons of time. Just that little pebble he absorbed translated into half a month of constant sacred stone usage. What was more, the Yuan Qi he got was the same obtained through usual practice. Through the process of taking the spiritual energy from sacred stone or spirit stone, most of it would be cast away, keeping only what the user needed before turning it into his own Yuan Qi. Unlike the common convention, this black rock had fully usable Yuan Qi. It would make advancing so much easier since it added an extra oomph, which made a whole difference when pushing through to the next level. Wu Ran's mind was overwhelmed from shock and fear. This small thing was a game changer. It could speed up cultivation tremendously. The old man was looking puzzled, having not felt it to believe it. Eldest young master, what's wrong? Is it any good? Not just good, but perfect. Wu Ran's eyes shone with an even hotter gaze on Zhuo Fan. Sir, what is this, and how many do you have? Giving a devil smile, Zhuo Fan drawled. It is the demon spirit stone from Serenity Vein. In the entire world, you won't find a second person have it. As for the amount, ha ha ha, as much as you want. Well, is it worth it? Is it a huge deal? Sir, is without a doubt amazing. This deal is beyond huge. Wu Ran's brow shook, his eyes blazing with excitement. The North Sea gel is only great at healing, but the demon spirit stone can revolutionize cultivation as we know it. It can greatly increase one's cultivation, but its greatest asset is to guarantee one's life. I now understand what Sir meant by being better than the North Sea gel, although my only wish is for Sir to keep it that way. Catching his drift, Zhuo Fan gave him a long look. Why? Planning on having a monopoly on it. Exactly. As Sir is the sole owner of this stone, with our company's deep connection throughout the lands, you'll earn the most with us acting as middlemen. Sir has only to gain from a cooperation with us. Then about my deal. Consider it done. And the city lord, a foregone conclusion. Wu Ran's waved off all of Zhuo Fan's doubts, his face solemn. All we need from Sir is constant cooperation with us. You, Sir, are our most noble customer. Everything can be resolved. Our company willing to solve all of Sir's issues. Zhuo Fan nodded with a chuckle. Great. Then I shall take my leave and wait for eldest young master's good news. Zhuo Fan got up to leave. Wait. Wu Ran's cried out, still smiling. Just how many does Sir have? Could Sir offer some? I still need to convince my father and the city lord. Afraid I'm bluffing. Ha ha, no, not at all. Just 100,000, but I must have first pick of all the goods you got from all the lands in exchange for it. Zhuo Fan seemed to struggle as he talked. Wu Ran's nodded. Sure, that settles it. Here's the highest commercial card, Sir. Wherever you may go, our company's assets will be at Sir's disposal. Only 5 such cards have been handed out, with Sir's being the 6th. 5. The leaders of every land has the right to own one since war is costly and we'd be helping them in times of need. Wu Ran's beamed Zhuo Fan gave him a look, so they're into war finance as well. Not that he cared, since it was all the same to him. So he held out his ring. Eldest young master, here are 100,000 demon spirit stones. I'll await the good news. Rest assured, sir. Bam! The 2 rings clinked and the transfer finished. Wu Ran's got his rocks and Zhuo Fan got some shiny golden card. Taking his leave with Gu Santong on his back, Wu Ran's, and the old man walked him out well beyond the reception. The other guest there was stunned, then gave Zhuo Fan astonishing looks. Who's he, to have even the eldest young master show him out? Out of even the reception? Eldest young master only ever walked even the most important customers to the reception, but today, eldest young master, second young master was beaten up outside the company. Someone was running towards Wu Ran's and whispered, while second young master was being carried over by some guards, not sparing him a glance. Wu Ran spoke. No matter. He asked for it. Keep an eye on him from now on. Make sure he doesn't disturb the customers. He then walked back to Zhuo Fan. All smiles. Sir, I asked for a room to be ready for you. If it's not up to sir's standards, please mention it to the tavern and the whole of Gold Boss City will be at your disposal. I need to talk about our deal with my father and won't be able to accompany you for the following days. I ask sir to be patient. Zhuo Fan nodded, finding it a waste of time to talk to a man with no soul. Who are you? You dare to ambush me? Fight me like a man. A roar resounded in the hall. Zhuo Fan paused and turned to second young master. Wu Ran's was the fastest to shout at him. Brother, stop making a scene. You're disturbing the customers. Father will deal with you. Did you forget already what happened 3 years ago? It's because I can't that I loathe these grand customers more. Second young master pointed at Zhuo Fan and screamed. Duel me if you have the guts. Wu Randong won't fall so fast the second time. We're on Dong. Zhuo Fan cocked an eyebrow, then grinned as he lightly stepped outside with the same old man attending to him. Wu Ran's signaled the guards to take his screaming brother towards a lofty manor. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.